At AJ Products, we offer workplace solutions for office, school, warehouse, and environment. But at AJ, we do things differently. Our approach to quality and innovation means we design and make many of our own products, giving a more unique and personal service to our customers. Like our classic in-campus clothes lockers, designed and built in our own factory. And our whiteboards, guaranteed for 25 years, only at AJ. Visit ajproducts.ie or call 01 28 11 700. AJ Products. Surprisingly more. Ask AJ.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, a part of the Dead End Podcast Network. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcasting services. Please make sure you check out Dead End Hip Hop, Dead End Sports, Dead End Gaming, Is the Mic Still On, Chris Platt's Strictly Hip Hop and Hoops Talk, and a host of other shows on our podcast network. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday for Sunday, June 6, 2021. I am your host, Manny Brown, joined as always by my co-host, Josh Rodriguez. Josh, what up?
Manny, what's going on, man? NBA playoffs. We are both sad fans right now. Very, very sad fans. We'll get into it, though.
Very sad fans. You know, geez, what a week. What a week. It was a double whammy for me. But yeah, you guys know who listen and follow. But we'll get into it.
It was a hard week for you.
Very hard week.
At least your Mets are in first. At least your Mets are in first place.
Hey, you know what?
And been that way for it's like not like, oh, we've been in first for 2 days. Like, no, we've been in first.
I think
for a while.
I think I saw something. Anthony DeComo tweeted out something earlier that said the Mets have been either in first place or shared first place for 30 straight days. Which, like, as a Met fan, that's like, oh my God, Jesus!
And with half of your roster out, like, come on,
and that's what makes it so cool, right? It's like this team, like, you're finding different heroes every night. Every guy's contributing. The pitching staff has been completely just fucking beasting. Like, it's just
Jacob
been
deGrom might be the best pitcher of all time.
I don't know about all time, but the run that he's at right now. I mean, it's like. You know, for those who don't follow baseball, it's like watching Mike at his peak or watching LeBron at his peak or, you know, Magic I mean, it's just watching that, you know, watching any quarterback in football, that any great quarterback at their peak, you know, same thing in baseball, watching this pitcher just completely dominate and do things that people haven't seen in, you know, decades, maybe ever. It's just incredible.
I gotta be honest with you, man. I think it's even more impressive than that. When you have a 0.64 ERA, that's,
and a 400 batting average too.
That is like, I don't even know how to put that in basketball terms. That's like literally averaging like 40, 10, and 10 with no turnovers and shooting like 65%.
40, 10, and 10, and also having a 50, 40, 90 type of season.
Yeah, it's with and don't turn the ball over. Like, right. it's everything you could think of with great defense. I can't explain how. Yeah, like that is such a dumb. Like, that shouldn't even. That is absurd. Like, if he was in the low twos, I'd be like, man, what a season. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, no, for sure. And I think the only comparable thing to say it would even be like a quarter. Like, let's say Aaron Rodgers was, you know, led the league in passing yards and had a perfect QB rating and like had a
one interception,
one or zero interceptions. Like, it's just and like 40 touchdowns through week 8. It's just like, that's how crazy it is. I mean, he's so good that it literally just doesn't even make sense. Like, how good he is.
He already won the Cy Young. It's over.
Yeah. He's the MVP. Forget Cy Young. Like, you can make the case he's the most valuable player. And not to get too much into the baseball talk, but I hate this. Like, I hate this. I love baseball, but there's so much about baseball that I hate. That the whole, like, oh, pitchers can't win the MVP because they have their own award. Like, shut the fuck up. Right? Like, you mean to tell me that Jacob deGrom isn't one of the most important players in baseball? Like, seriously. Right. Like, we're sitting here making a case that, you know, I forgot who somebody was making the case for MVP. Shohei Ohtani. The Angels are terrible. The Angels are in fourth place. Like, but somehow Shohei Ohtani, and I know he's a hitter half the time, I get it, but, you know, Shohei Ohtani can be an MVP, but Jacob deGrom can't. Like, stop. Please stop. Like, please. Yeah. Like, having a pitcher, an ace, that kind of ace at that level with those numbers, that's as good as having any 3-4 hitter in baseball. I'm sorry. That just is. So yeah, Jacob deGrom is definitely the MVP, Cy Young, all that. Everything. Just stay healthy, Jake. Maybe he may not continue at this clip, but just stay healthy and keep pitching the way that he's incredible. He really, really is incredible. There's not many guys that I can say are probably they're pitching at a level that I've never seen before. Like he's pitching at a level I've legitimately never seen before. Maybe three guys that I've seen. Pedro in 99 and 2000.
Pedro's the only one. Pedro's the only one I can think of.
Randy Johnson, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, his stuff, it just reminds me of Pedro. That's what it is, I think.
Yeah, his stuff is Pedro. It's weird because to me, he's like a combination of Pedro and Randy Johnson, just from the right side. But it's weird. He's just his delivery is so effortless. Like it just doesn't even feel like he's exerting that. And he's throwing 102.
Right.
With pinpoint control. It's surgical. It really is. I can't say enough about the guy.
He throws harder than Randy Johnson. It's just that Johnson was so physically like
imposing, and
that's what I think. When Randy was like a giant and came to the mound, and like it was more being physically imposing than it was like his stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously he had dirty stuff. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
Randy Johnson, I think like literally an ostrich is on the mound and just.
Right. It's incredible. I think the only thing that I think that this run he's on, obviously we brought up Pedro and Randy. This is Koufax like. Obviously me and you were both not around to see Koufax.
I know
obviously.
nothing. Yeah.
Right. But everything that you read and the highlights and the stats and everything, this is like Koufax level. This is just ridiculous, and a much harder era to pitch in than Koufax. And no disrespect to Koufax, but it's just it's incredible. It's incredible what he's doing. So we can't say enough good things about Jacob deGrom. So yeah, man. But hey, good way to lead off the show, man, with some Jacob deGrom. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
appreciate that. But how are you, man? How's everything? How's life? How's Uninterrupted? How's all the stuff going on your way?
Busy, man. But I guess busy's good.
Busy's a good thing.
There's a day I dreamed of being this busy for money. So. Hey,
yes,
absolutely. Not gonna complain. My Knicks are out, but
we'll get to that. My friend. We'll get to that. We need to get Josh a mental health day, guys. So we need to tweet out some ideas, either a staycation or going somewhere, whatever. We need to get Josh a mental health break. Normalize that. By the way, man, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overworked. Right. Please take care of yourself first and foremost. And
coming after the finals.
It's coming after the finals. For sure. All right, man. Enough talking around the lead. Well, you want to start with our teams first, or do you want to start with today's games?
Let's get it out of our chest. Let's get it out of our.
Okay, let's get it out of our chest. I'll let you go first, man. Knicks, since yours happened first. Knicks lose in 5 to the Atlanta Hawks. Couple days removed. Obviously, we all know the results, man. Just floor is yours, man. What are your thoughts on this Knicks season?
Well, overall, I'm really happy with the season. Obviously, there's mixed feelings because you get into a matchup with a 4-5, you're the 4, and you think going into the series, obviously the Hawks were the more talented team, but I thought the Knicks obviously had a chance. I picked the Knicks in 7. Probably some of that was with my heart. I think it was disappointing to see Julius Randle play the way he played. They say in the playoffs, Bob Myers has a great quote, Warriors GM. I don't know if you ever saw the video, Manny, but he's basically like, regular season doesn't mean anything. This is me paraphrasing, but he's basically saying the regular season doesn't mean anything. In the playoffs, you find out who's who and who can really play basketball because those open jump shots are not open anymore. That your go-to move, we're taking that away. Every team does that, and we see who you are. Mm-hmm. And I think, not to say Julius is trash. I don't think Julius is trash, but I think Julius showed himself where it's like, okay, you're more of a 3 at best, for a championship winning, which is not a bad thing. I think a lot of Knicks fans, like, it's weird. A lot of them are starting to be like, oh, we don't care if I was on listening to The Fan today. I don't care if I get rid of Julius, like, get rid of him, blah, 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 blah. It's like, he didn't play well in the first round. He was awful, but you can't ignore what he did during the regular season. You can't do that. And if you add, a number 1 or a number 2, he's going to be open. He's going to get better shots. Like, he had to create everything he created this year. So I just think the Knicks fans need to relax. I think it's a blessing in disguise. I made a video about this where it's like, well, now we can kind of take off some money that we were going to pay him. We can justify not giving him the max because we look at him like, yo, you're not a max player. You're going to get money. You can get a bag, but you're not a max player. You know, I think a lot of people have delusions about RJ Barrett. I like RJ. He's a nice player. I think he's a piece, but he's not a superstar. He's not someone who you can like groom into like a number 2 option on a championship winning team. I think he's nice, but you know, I think a lot of the delusions that Knicks fans had pretty much were on display and were thrown in our face. Like, hey, this is reality right here. When you lose in 5 games to the Atlanta Hawks, you kind of have to reevaluate yourself. That's no disrespect to the Hawks, but it's not like they went against the Bucks or the Nets or the Sixers, you know? So overall, with the season, I'm really happy. If you would have told me the Knicks would have got the 4 seed, I would have said you're smoking crack. And they got the 4 seed. Granted, the Heat were injured. The Celtics were injured. A lot went their way. They were relatively healthy, and they played harder than any team in the Eastern Conference in my mind all season. That probably led to it, you know, Thibodeau coaching. But it was fun, man. It was awesome to see the Garden crazy again. Like, the defense chants, like, give me chills, man. Like, it's such a wild atmosphere. I know a lot of people, you know, you hear about the Garden being the quote-unquote Mecca, and I don't like when Knicks fans say that. I think it's kind of pretentious, but there is a vibe at the Garden that I don't think exists in any other arena. And I know you might fight back on that with me. I wasn't around for the Forum. I've been to the Staples Center. Staples Center has nothing on the Garden.
You're right. You're right.
But it was just the most fun I've had watching Knicks since Linsanity, and it was my favorite Knicks team since 2010 pre-Melo. So it made me like the Knicks again. It made me love the Knicks again. I had an affinity for the Knicks for the first time in a while, and I'm grateful for that. Disappointing the way it ended, but this team was never going to go anywhere to begin with, and we had some questions answered. Just we don't like the answers, and we just got to deal with the reality.
Right. Well, I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I do think MSG is the mecca of basketball. It just is. There is a vibe in that arena that you just can't duplicate. Not saying that Knicks fans are better than Laker fans. It's just fact.
It's a vibe.
It's just a vibe. It's just a vibe, and that arena is different. Basketball there, when it's important, when there's a big game, there's just nothing like MSG. It just isn't. In basketball, there just isn't. You know, at pro basketball at least, there's just nothing like it. You know, so yeah, everything that you said there is spot on. Look, I think the Knicks, I think if you're a Knicks fan, I think you have to look at this season as a total success. I mean, you were a team that were predicted to be 10th in the East, maybe 9th, at best, right? Yeah, right. At best,
ESPN has as the 4th worst team in the league, or 3rd worst team in the league.
There you go. Right. Like no one had any expectations for this Knicks team. I mean, maybe if everything broke right and went right, maybe like a fringe playoff team, 10th, 9th, 8th, fighting in the playing game, that type of team. But nobody had expectations for the Knicks this year, and they came out and not only exceeded those expectations. I mean, they crushed those expectations. I mean, they far exceeded anything that anybody had thought. Julius Randle really came into his own this year as a player. Thibodeau proved again why he's a really good coach, despite what NBA Twitter likes to tell you about Thibodeau. He's a really good coach, and the Knicks matter again. MSG matters again. The Knicks are not as a dysfunction and a laughingstock as they've been for the last 20 years. They actually did things right for a change. So yeah, man, I think if you're a Knicks fan, if you're a tried and true Knicks fan, I think you have to look at this season as an absolute success. You know, now the fun begins. If you're a Knicks fan, now the real fun begins, because now you start looking at this season. Okay, this was kind of our honeymoon season period or whatever. And now we really got to start, putting our hard hats on and start building this team up and saying, okay, what's a piece that we're keeping? What's a piece that we're building around? What's a piece that we can discard? What's a piece that we can just cut? What's a piece that we can build around? You start answering those questions. Who's a piece that we can add? We're guys that we can draft. So all of these questions are questions that now as a Knicks fan and obviously, the powers that be at MSG can all start answering. Is Julius Randle a guy that we pay max money? I think me and you both know the answer to that. Is RJ Barrett anything more than just a very good player, but nothing more? All of these questions that I think Knicks fans had question marks about that have been kind of answered. I'm with you on RJ. I'm disappointed in RJ, man, because you know me, I'm a Duke guy, and I loved him at Duke. I loved him in high school. He was called the Canadian Kobe.
Maple Mamba.
I thought RJ would be so much more ahead of where he is right now. And it's been weird. It's like he just stopped developing. But the expectations that maybe unfairly, I guess, but
when he came into Duke, the expectations were
right. And it's like he lived up to expectations at Duke. Obviously he was just completely dwarfed and overshadowed by by Zion. But people forget, like RJ Barrett was the number one player in that class. Like there were people that were saying RJ Barrett was going to be the number one pick, and Zion was like maybe a top 10 pick. And Zion obviously came in and just lit the world on fire. But RJ Barrett didn't disappoint at Duke. If anything, he lived up to expectations. And then obviously being drafted third, coming in that same draft class as John Morant and Zion, I kind of feel like he's underperformed in a lot of ways. He has not really lived up to the hype that I had and the expectations that I had. And maybe that's just because he's not that guy. And I think that's what people are starting to see is that he's just maybe just not that guy.
So this is my first time ever doing this. So I had an NBA player to obey.
Okay. Okay.
I work at Uninterrupted for those who don't know. So I work with athletes, and I had one. I think I told you who it was, Manny.
Okay,
we'll talk afterwards. But one time we're talking about the Knicks, and I told him I'm a Knicks fan. And he goes, "Oh, my condolences." And we're talking about the team. RJ Barrett comes in the discussion and he goes, "Yeah, RJ, like he doesn't do anything well. Like, the way he tries to score the basketball, he's never going to be efficient in this league ever." Yeah. They're just basically like, they don't like anyone on the team. No one in the league really likes what's going on in New York. This is back when they had like Alonzo Trier and like those guys.
Right.
But basically just didn't go to town on RJ, but would just basically like, yeah, he's just like incredibly average. Like he ain't shit, basically.
Right. Which is crazy to think about. If you followed RJ in high school, if you followed him coming into Duke, it's just like, and obviously we all know what happens in high school and college doesn't always necessarily transition into the NBA. We know that obviously. That's not a shock, but it's just like I just kind of feel like, man, I expected this guy to be much better than what he is. And he's just kind of, I don't know. He just stopped developing. Okay. He's just there. He's nice. He's fine. He's a solid player. His
handle's not that great. It's okay. Like he can do what he needs to do, but sometimes he slips up. He doesn't blow by anybody.
Nope.
He's a decent finisher at the rim, but he's very undersized. He's not going to overpower anybody. So you know what I mean? So he has to be a little more crafty and he has to be a little more creative. What helped him a lot this year was the fact that he started heating up from the 3-point range. And if he can continue that next year, that's going to help him a lot. Because without that 3-point shot, like he really, I mean, what else does he do well?
Yeah,
to be honest, like he gets to do it every once in a while.
Yeah,
but not really, and he doesn't really create for others. He can, like, he shows flashes of being able to pass the basketball, but he's not a playmaker. I wouldn't say so. I don't know. I like RJ, but to me, I'm not attached to him. I would trade him a heartbeat.
I agree. Yeah, I think RJ's a guy that if you got if he was a part of a package where you could get something better for him, great. And who knows, maybe he's a guy, you've seen it before, but maybe he's a guy that the Knicks trade him and then he finally realizes his potential somewhere else. Maybe who knows? Because that's happened.
All the baby Lakers, man, they're out putting in work. So
listen, don't remind me. But
listen, you want a championship trading them away. So
I understand. At
the end of the day,
I'm not complaining. But
like Julius is an example of that. Brandon Ingram is an example.
Jordan Clarkson.
Even Lonzo to an extent. So
right.
I mean, he can be one of those.
He can be one of those guys for sure. But no, even if he stays with the Knicks, but if he just develops it, if he continues to develop his 3-point shot and becomes just a gunner from 3, there's nothing wrong with that. Guys get paid just off that. So if he could be a better Alex Burke, then that's probably a good ceiling for him.
Yeah, he's a solid player. He's a solid starter. I think he is. I do.
And you know what I liked about him? He's one of the guys that I paid attention when that game got out of hand, that game 5. He kept playing hard. He was energized. He was into it. He was trying to take over the game as much as he could, obviously. He was still bringing it. And that impressed me because a young kid like that, second year in the league, he could have just pouted. He could have, sunk his shoulders, whatever. No, he was out there competing. That showed me a lot from RJ.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
I think he's a good player. And I think he's a piece that I think the Knicks should keep. Obviously, if the deal presents itself. I mean, if you could get, Dame Lillard for him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I'm not attached to RJ, but I think what that player told me rings true. I mean, when they lost a game to the Timberwolves earlier this year, where RJ took the last shot, and Anthony Edwards just came flat out and said, "Yeah, we wanted the ball in RJ Barrett's hands." Like, there's a little reputation with RJ around the league, like he don't scare nobody, and there's reasons for it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that that's the same guy that I saw, but it is. So yeah, I agree with you, man. No, look, like I said, the Knicks are back. Not back to being championships contenders. Don't take what I said wrong. I'm just saying that their Knicks are back to being relevant again. Basketball matters at MSG again. And that's the important thing. We've talked about it before. The NBA is better when the Knicks are good. The NBA is better when the Knicks matter again. So that's all these things are true. So now it's building on the success of this year, going from, okay, we're a good team, solid. I didn't say good team, solid team. Made some strides. Now, how do we become a good team? And then how do we come from a good team to a great team, championship contending team? That's the next challenge. And I think that's what the Knicks fans and Knicks executives have to start thinking about and looking forward to when it comes to next season.
Yeah, I would just caution Knicks fans. I mean, you got to remember that the Hawks were pretty much hurt and in disarray for the first half of the season. They're a better team than the Knicks. The Heat are probably better than the Knicks if they're all healthy. The Celtics, same thing. So, they have a 4 seed this year, but let's not kid ourselves. They could easily be in a play-in game next year and honestly have nothing wrong with the team. It's just, there are other teams in the East right now that are just better than the Knicks, who have more players, who have more talent. Yeah. The Knicks just caught a season where there were a lot of injuries. A lot of teams were in disarray and they took advantage of it. So I think Knicks fans need to kind of temper their expectations. The Knicks are maybe like on that fringe of being a contender, but they're nowhere close, and they're not in the upper echelon of the East. Don't let the 4 seeds fool you. There's still 6 to 7 teams that I think the Knicks healthy are need to leapfrog. So temper expectations, Knicks fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you want to see this team do in the offseason? What are kind of some of the areas you want to see them focus on? I mean,
they need a point guard. I would love
Agreed.
Lonzo on the team. I'm team Lonzo with that. A lot of Knicks fans aren't, but I think a big reason why the Knicks struggled offensively down the stretch was because they just simply didn't have anybody who could literally just run a pick and roll and read the defense and make something happen. Like that. I know it sounds crazy. God bless Derrick Rose. He did everything he could do, but Derrick Rose is like, I'm going to go to hoop and make something happen. Derrick Rose isn't, I'm going to go with the pick and roll, see if I can catch the roller. If he's not open, read the weak side defender, hit someone open for 3. Like Lonzo goes through the progressions. He looks for others. Like that's important. And they don't have anybody like that. And Lonzo,
and he's great defensively. So
he's great defensively, and he can hit
the reputation of this team. Yep,
and he can hit the 3. So I think he fits in beautifully. I think they need a playmaking point guard. I think they need more snipers on the wings. Alec Burks is cool. Reggie was awesome this year. Reggie Bullock, shout out to Reggie. He's had an up and down career, but this year he was awesome with the Knicks, and I was really happy with him. So I just think they need a little more shooting. I would like to see Obi more involved with the pick and roll and kind of creating offense for him. And just maybe like another wing who can like create their own shot. It's just they need better players. They need talent. They need talent. They need playmakers. So when there's a half court set and the defense is tightened up, they're not going isolation and just trying to make something happen. Run a pick and roll, make something happen with somebody else creating. And they didn't have that. It was give the ball to Julius, watch him take a 25-foot step back jumper, or give the ball to Derrick Rose. Hopefully he gets in the paint. It's a floater. They had nobody to like break down a defense and make something happen for anybody else. So that's what I want.
Yeah,
for the Knicks.
I agree. I think they need a healthy Mitchell Robinson. I think that also helps them offensively. It is going to definitely help them defense.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think a healthy Mitchell Robinson goes a long way. I agree with you. They need a point guard. I just think they need a number 1 guy. They need a closer. They need maybe not a number 1 guy, but a 1A, a 2 guy. Like they just need
shot.
They just need somebody that can create their own shot. A guy that commands a double team. A guy that kind of just opens the offense up for Julius and everybody else involved. They just don't have that. They just don't have that guy that commands the respect of the defense, especially on the perimeter. So when things get tight, just and I think Julius just panics because he's the only guy that really can create his own shot. So I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and the fact that he's just kamikaze with basketball all over the place. It's weird. So I think they definitely need a number 1 guy. I know that's, who doesn't need a number 1 guy? I mean, a lot of teams need a number 1 guy. So it's easy to say that, but I think they just need a guy that can create his own shot, a closer, a finisher, somebody like that, somebody of that ilk. But, Quickly's a piece, obviously. I didn't even mention Quickly, but Quickly's
these are Lou Williams, baby. Off the bench.
Yeah, Quickly's a piece.
I already know his role. I don't want you to be the starter. You come off the bench. You're our 6th man, instant offense. That's why I want Quickly to be.
Agreed. Yeah.
And he plays, for his size, he plays good defense. Good
defense. He knows what he's doing. He's a playmaker. Yeah, Quickly's quick. I've been impressed with Quickly. I didn't think Quickly was going to be that good, and he's exceeded that expectations like that. And so like I said, Mitchell Robinson healthy, a point guard, another closer, at the very least, another just capable scorer of the basketball, if nothing else. But yeah, man, the Knicks have. There's light at the end of the tunnel for the Knicks, and that's a good thing. That's the best thing I can say about that team right now.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other side of things. And
the floor is yours, Manny. The floor is yours.
Man. The Lakers
out in 6 games.
6 games to the Suns. Obviously, if you had to be living under a rock to not know that, obviously the Lakers are the Lakers, so they generate constant buzz. Even without LeBron, they generate buzz. So with LeBron, it's like twofold, right? Listen, I mean, I that's why I'm glad we did this show today and not, Friday morning or some shit, because it's like the emotions would have been really raw and I'd have been talking real spicy and whatnot. But no, I've had a couple days to think. Look, it's crazy, man. It's literally the Lakers season was 2 seasons. It was 35 games in when the Lakers were completely healthy. LeBron was playing at an MVP level. AD wasn't playing the same way, but he was kind of still catching his legs up under him and, whatnot. And the Lakers had the best record in basketball, and they were steamrolling to basically waltzing to a repeat. And then the injuries happen. AD gets hurt, misses basically the majority of the season. LeBron gets hurt, 3 weeks later, 3 or 4 weeks later. And that's it. Season's pretty much in disarray. Got guys, having to step up and play. Some of the weaknesses and the holes that this team had kind of, showed themselves to be what they were, and the season just kind of fell apart for us. And we just didn't have enough time and games to, get that chemistry going. Even with that, the Lakers had a 2-1 lead in that series. I will challenge anyone and tell them, if the Lakers are healthy, if AD does not get hurt, we beat the Suns. I'm sorry. I know people want to now make that out to be like, no, that's bull. No, if Anthony Davis is healthy, the Suns are going home.
Do you think LeBron was
6 games? That's the thing about it. I've been very critical of LeBron. I didn't think LeBron had a great playoff series. I don't think he had a great series against the Suns. I think he was really passive, very indecisive, dribble, fade away 3, dribble, pass out. It just was not a LeBron James performance for the ages, that's for sure. So do I think he was hurt? Yes, I do. But that's the thing about it. And I hate doing this because it sounds unfair and it's like you're not sensitive to athletes and injuries. But it's like, I go back to the old Jimmy Connors line. If you're injured, don't play. If you play, you're not injured. I can't dissect your performance if you're out there. It's like, if you're healthy enough to play, then I have to expect you to at least play to your level. You know what I mean? So if LeBron scores 25, if he's healthy, he scores 35. I can't do that. What is that? Like, okay, what does that mean exactly?
Right.
So, do I think he was hurt? Yeah, I do. I think he was hurt. I don't think he was 100%. I don't think you can watch LeBron and not say that there was something there. Again, how much of that played a role into the series? I think a lot of it, because he just wasn't the same guy. I mean, and that's what I was very critical about. It's like he's just not doing the things that you expect from LeBron, basically putting the team on his back, and just like LeBron by himself is good enough to, at the very least, take this series to a 7, right? Like, I've seen LeBron by himself basically almost beat the Warriors. You mean tell me he can't by himself compete against the Suns? It's like
he can't beat Jay Crowder.
You can't beat Jay Crowder, Devin Booker, and Cameron Payne, and a one arm having Chris Paul. Like, stop, please. That being said, look, it is what it is. The Lakers didn't end the season well, and I think that's another thing that somebody else brought up to me too. Is like, everybody had delusions of grandeur with this team. I mean, this is a team that basically took a lucky shot by LeBron in the playing game of beating the Warriors, or who knows, we might be in a situation where we're playing the Grizzlies for our lives.
Right.
Like, we were that close, right? So yeah, it just, the vibes around this team just felt off after basically all the injuries happened.
Yeah, once LeBron went down, the vibes kind of went off, because they were like the best. They were the best team in basketball. LeBron was honestly, if LeBron was healthy the whole season, he wins MVP.
Probably. Probably.
I know Jokic was a favorite, and Jokic was like, he had his career and he still does, but like, at the moment LeBron went down, LeBron was the MVP of the league, in my mind.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe you're right. Obviously we'll never know, but it is what it is. And now the real fun begins, I guess, because now you get to play fantasy GM essentially and see, okay, what does this team need to do to give? I think this team, before I even go there, I hate to be reactionary, just in life in general. You hate to be reactionary, but we're all guilty of it, right? We all live in the moment sometimes, and we make decisions based off being in the moment. And as a fan, it's the worst thing, right? Because it's like, you don't want to be reactionary as a fan, but you can't help it, right? Because there's emotion, there's passion involved, and you don't necessarily tend to make the best decisions. So that's why it took me a couple of days to sit back, relax, think about things succinctly. Part of me wants to kind of run it back with the same team because I do feel strongly that if we were healthy,
right,
this is a much different season, right? But then also part of me understands that we have some glaring holes that we need to be addressed, and we need some changes. And I think I lean more on we need some changes. Not a lot, not crazy changes. I mean, obviously, anytime you can start a season with a healthy Anthony Davis and a healthy LeBron James, I mean, you're not doing so bad. That being said, I think the Lakers need to make some serious changes. I think number one, Kuzma's got to go. It's done. It's over. I like the kid. I like the kid a lot, but he just doesn't fit. The Lakers have been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole for 2 seasons now. It just hasn't worked. I give the kid credit.
And LeBron's like visibly frustrated with him. Like there were 3 moments in that game where like LeBron just like Kuzma made LeBron like it looked like he made him give up. That's how frustrated he was.
Yeah, and look, that's another thing about LeBron. His body language just
awful.
It's always been this way, and it's amazing to me that people just don't call it out enough. It's like for all the credit that he gets for being a leader and this and that, it's like his body language on the court sometimes when things are not going well. It's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah. And say what you want to say about Michael and whatever, you just didn't see that from Mike. And I hate to be that.
Michael was more like aggressive, like in your face. Get your shit together. LeBron's more like. He throws his arm in the air. He embarrasses you, and he walks back and he pouts. Like honestly, I say this all the time, and people are like, oh no, you wouldn't. But like, if I was LeBron's team, I would be in his face. Like, yo, don't fucking show me up like that. Don't show me up like that. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't know if that's a New Yorker in me, and I don't know if that's me fantasizing. Like, oh, that's what I would do. But you don't show me up like that
because you're embarrassing your teammates. You're embarrassing your teammates.
LeBron would trade me 1,000% trade me. I'd be traded. LeBron gets his first year with the Lakers. If I was on the Lakers, I'm gone by the trade deadline. I probably play 18 games with LeBron
before I'm gone. And then you're out of there.
If I turn the ball over, don't throw your hands up in the air and walk back on defense and embarrass me like that. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck. Man.
No, it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look. It's never a good look. And LeBron has been guilty of that forever. And it's about time that people called it out for what it is. He's just
there's always a specific person on the team he does that with. Like he did it with Deion Waiters when he first got with the Cavs. He did it with Kuzma on the Lakers. He did it with J.R. Smith. Like there's always a specific player on his team that he just seems to like. Kyrie. He did it with Kyrie a couple times too.
That's kind of.
And Kyrie stood up for himself.
Yeah. And Kyrie's I think that's where you gain your respect from LeBron.
And that's probably the reason why Kyrie just didn't want to stay around. Like, we won a chip, but like, I did this, I did X, Y, Z. You embarrassed me the first couple of years here. Then we win a chip together. And now all the credit's going to you. Like,
right. I hit the biggest shot in the game.
He hit the biggest shot in Cavs. He hit the biggest shot in Cavs history, maybe the biggest shot in NBA history. Like,
very true. Very true. Kuz's got to go, man. I like the kid a lot. I give him credit because a lot of guys would not have handled that situation the way that he has, where he's been willing to work and change his game completely. Kuz is a scorer. Kuz is a guy. He doesn't play much defense. He's a high volume scorer. He's a guy that's used to basically getting the ball, putting the ball on the court, playing that up tempo, Luke Walton-ish type of offense. That's, I guess, successful to some folks, I guess, but that's the type of player that he's used to being, and he hasn't been able to do that under Frank Vogel and under this iteration of the Lakers with LeBron and AD. And it's just not built for what he does best. He needs to go somewhere where he could just be that guy.
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Yeah, right. Sacramento. I mean, I could think of a lot of teams that could use a Kyle Kuzma. Hell, even your Knicks could probably use a Kyle Kuzma. I wouldn't want Kuzma to be like one of our main guys, though. He's like a main guy for a bad team. He is. Right. And I'm not trying to hype up Kyle Kuzma. He's a very good player. I there's also the Kuzma gets like a lot of like unnecessary hate on Twitter too. Like, I get it. He's flashy. He's out there. And I've even been critical of him. Like, for a guy that literally sometimes looks lost on the court. I see a lot of you on Instagram. I see a lot of you with Instagram thoughts, like, outfits and shit. It's like, no, focus on the basketball, less on that.
But he was also like the chosen one too. Like, out of all the people like that got traded.
True. Very true. Very true.
If Brandon Ingram's around, this team, like,
totally different. Totally different. Yeah. Cool.
Even Lonzo.
Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely, man. And I hated giving up those two guys because I loved them. I thought they were centerpieces for what the Lakers were trying to do. I get it that at the time, giving up getting AD was paramount, and it was the obvious move, right? But I hated giving up those guys, man. And I wasn't mad about keeping Kuzma because I felt like those three guys, Kuzma, Ingram, Lonzo, were the chosen ones. Those were the guys that you needed to build around. And obviously we kept Kuzma, and I felt good about it, even though I had my concerns. How would he fit with AD? Obviously they play the same position, and it just hasn't worked. So I think Kuzma has to go. Drummond, bye. Gasol, I respect you. God bless you. Respectfully, you got to go. He's old. He's still effective. He could still help a team, but it's just, yeah. Schroeder's the guy I'm confused about, because there's been times this season where, he's not. I'm getting there. Trust me. At times this season, I thought Schroeder was our second best player, especially when AD was kind of struggling and with his legs. The first couple weeks of the season, I thought Schroeder came out the gates playing really well. I would argue he was the second best player on the Lakers this year for a large stretch of the season, before the injuries, before the COVID pauses and whatnot. Remember, he had 2 COVID pauses. He had, one right around January or so. Then he had another one kind of later on in the season, missed about a week to 2 weeks from that. And it just felt like after that second COVID pause, he just never got his season on track. Obviously, he turned down an $84 million extension. Talk about he wants $100 million. Look, I'm split on Schroeder. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good player. I'm not paying him $100 million. If he's dead set on I want $100 million, goodbye. If I can get Schroeder, hell, I'm not even taking Schroeder at that $84 million. If I can get Schroeder 3 for $39, the Kuzma contract, if I can get him for 4 for $60, I wouldn't mind bringing Schroeder back, because he does help this team. He's a playmaker. He's another point guard that kind of takes the pressure off of LeBron James to make plays in backcourt. So I wouldn't mind that. But if you're paying him $100 million, that's money better allocated for somewhere else on the roster. If I'm gonna pay Dennis Schroeder that, I might as well. I'd rather do a sign and trade with the Pelicans for Lonzo back. He's a bigger, better Schroeder. Yeah. So Schroeder's the one that I'm mixed about. Everybody else, I think the biggest takeaway with the Lakers, though, they need a third option. They need a third option in the worst way. I think that the plan and the strategy has been that, hey, we have LeBron and we have AD. And at first it was, Kyle Kuzma's going to be a third option. Obviously, when that wasn't working, then it's like, we don't really need a third option. We just need guys to step up behind AD. So LeBron and AD do their thing. And on any given night, it could be Rajon Rondo. It could be, KCP. It could be Caruso. It could be name a guy, right? That strategy doesn't work when LeBron, who's, now it's going to be 37. Now, 2 of the last 3 years has had a major significant injury, which has cost him time. And then, of course, you have AD, who's never healthy. Now that situation isn't exactly ideal, because you basically have question marks on your 2 best guys, and then you have a question mark on who's your third guy. So I think they absolutely, in the worst way, need their Tobias Harris type of guy. Maybe not a great player. Obviously, if you could get a Dame Lillard or somebody like that, wonderful, obviously. And I don't think that's going to happen, by the way.
I don't either.
But just throwing that name out there, if they could get Dame Lillard, obviously you shoot for Dame Lillard, obviously. But I mean, even just a Tobias Harris type of guy, that just a guy that consistently each and every night can give you 17 to 20 points on average. They need that in the worst way, because again, AD's out or hurt, LeBron's injured like he was in this postseason series. Who's the guy that you can rely on to get you shots, to get you points? They just don't have that guy.
It's supposed to be Schroeder.
And that contract demands just really started going down as the missed buckets and over performances. It worked. Yeah. And that's why that's why I don't want to live in the moment and be reactionary, because I don't want to make a bad decision based off 2 weeks in the regular season and a bad playoff series against the Suns. I don't want to necessarily make that decision just based off that, because he did have, for the most part, a strong season with the Lakers. Yeah. But again, it's hard. It's when your team is struggling the way that they were, and they just needed a guy to step up. And, you basically had games, I know he stepped up in the second half of game 6, but pretty much you had game 4, he did nothing. Basically game 4, game 5, he was just non-existent on the court. That sticks in a lot. That sticks in the craws of a lot of Laker fans. So Yeah, man. It's gonna be an interesting offseason for the Lakers. It really is, because I'm really curious to see what the tact is with them. Are they just going to be aggressive? Pelinka's shown himself to be very aggressive. He's not going to sit around.
Yeah,
I think they'll be aggressive. I just don't want them. And when I say third option, like, who's that guy? I don't know. A lot of people throw out, obviously, fantasy booking Dame Lillard. I've heard Bradley Beal's name come up.
The problem is with LeBron-led teams, like, the third option never does anything. Like, it's very,
exactly, because it's
Kevin Love,
LeBron.
Chris Bosh. They're always sacrificed because LeBron dominates the basketball. It's hard to have a third option. You just LeBron needs a 2, and you need to surround him with shooters. That's really what it is. People, I honestly think Laker fans don't overreact. If this team's healthy, there's a good possibility you win the championship again. A lot of it is
absolutely. Yeah.
So you got bounced in their first round. You got bounced in their first round to a team you probably would have seen in the Western Conference Finals if you were healthy all year, and you were unhealthy, and it took 6 games. So I think Laker fans, like, yeah, you need to make some slight adjustments, but the formula of LeBron and AD surrounded by shooters who can play defense, it works. It's going to be fun as long as LeBron can come back healthy and be LeBron, and same thing with AD. The Lakers are going to be fine.
You have no doubt that LeBron. You have no doubt LeBron can come back and be fine.
I have no idea. At this point, because he's 30, he's 37. He's going to be 37 next year. And it's like, at what point does Father Time win? Because Time is undefeated.
And that's the uncertainty that I have. And that's the uncertainty that a lot of people in Laker Nation have. It's like, it's not LeBron at 32, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, he's still got at least a good 3-4 years left in him. He's 36, going on 37. At some point, even LeBron, Father Time is going to come. That bill's going to come due, right? At some point. And you just wonder if it hasn't already. And, again, 2 out of the last 3 years, he's been hurt, and significant injuries where he's missed time. So you wonder now if it's like, okay, it's starting to now be the decline, and it's only a matter of time before he just completely falls off a cliff. I don't think it's going to happen, but right. I think that question mark is already there. And then obviously AD is a huge question mark. He's never healthy. He's unreliable. And I love the guy. I love the kid. I think he's a good guy. He cares. It kills him that he can't be out there to help his team. But availability is part of greatness too. I got to be able to depend on you. And if you're a Laker fan right now, can you count on AD? You just know for the rest of his career, he's a guy that's never going to play 82 games.
No,
you just know that he's not.
Even LeBron too, man. I mean, you had LeBron for 3 seasons now. 2 of those 3 seasons he's got hurt, which has tailspinned your season.
Exactly. Right. So listen, I agree with you. Look, as far as who's coming back, that's another thing that I left off. I think Vogel did a terrible job coaching in the series. I did not understand the rotations. His love affair with Drummond just made no sense to me. I almost had feelings of like he was back in Indiana with Roy Hibbert. I just didn't get it. The Drummond decision. I mean, how do you not play Montrezl Harrell, the guy who gives you energy and actually gives you a low post presence that can score to supplement what you lose in AD? I just do not understand it.
Can't protect the rim.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it. I get it.
But you just want to put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah. You just have to recognize that as soon as AD went down, you had to change that logic had to go out the window. You just had to bring in Harrell had to be your guy there. I mean, you just had to bring him in.
Because Harrell, like, he kills in the regular season. And then in the postseason comes, he gets no burn. Like, he's unplayable in the playoffs because coaches don't want to, play him because he can't protect the rim and can't really guard anybody inside. But then it's like, well, why do you play him in the regular season?
Right. And it's like, I sometimes I think that's a little bit overblown too. Like, I never watch Harrell and just be like, oh my God, he's a liability. I get his deficiencies, but the guy brings energy. He brings,
exactly.
I mean, when Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy and Jalen Rose, everybody's basically saying, play Montrezl Harrell. You literally have no one else.
It's more of a plus than Andre Drummond. And like, you're running post plays for Andre Drummond too. Like, Andre Drummond got the ball in the post a few times. Like, oh, this is the play we're running. What?
Exactly. And it's not like Andre Drummond. Dude, I'm just sitting there like literally like almost trying to break the TV watching this shit. Like, right. I just cannot. I can't understand it. It just made no sense to me. The Drummond thing was ridiculous. I don't get it. And it's not like Andre Drummond on a defensive standpoint is Ben Wallace either. He's never been that. He's a guy that gets rebounds, blocks shots. He's a good player, but he's not Ben Wallace where he completely changes your team defensively. He's just not that guy. So it never made sense to me. So yeah, I would definitely bring Harrell back, bringing Caruso back. I get THT to get more burn and get more development next year and have him be one of your lead guys from the guard perspective. And then again, I would invest in some shooters. Your only shooter can't be KCP. Wes Matthews just didn't really work. He looks to be a little bit past his prime. Get a little younger, get a little bit more athletic, get more shooters. I think if you could get a reliable third option, I think you do. If not, go heavy on the shooters, man. You need shooters. And obviously, you're not bringing under my scenario. You're not bringing back Gasol. You're not bringing back Drummond. I don't know what Dwight Howard's contract situation is, but I think they sorely miss Dwight Howard's energy, his defense. I'd look to bring Dwight Howard back. If I can't bring Dwight Howard back, I look to bring back JaVale, and maybe somebody else to as a center tandem. I like the center tandem. I think that works best with AD than just kind of having one guy clogging up the lane with AD.
Crazy. Defensively, it's like no one's getting to the rim on you guys. That's the reason why they won the championship. I mean, offensively, the Lakers have always kind of looked like a mess with LeBron and AD. Like it looks like it's smooth sometimes, but it's just you get bailed out by the greatness that is LeBron and AD. Sometimes the ball moves well, and KCP's hitting the three. But offensively, the Lakers, every time I watch them, it just looks like a clunk. It's just like, okay.
No, you're right. Let's be real. LeBron and AD don't really work together.
Right. They're just so good. It's
right. Conceptually speaking, LeBron and AD do not work together and pretty much shouldn't work together. But those two guys are so great.
Right.
And not to mention, and the other thing that doesn't get talked about it last year is Rondo, KCP. A lot of guys stepped up, hit big shots. The Lakers' big Achilles heel last year. All I heard was the Lakers didn't have shooting. Well, guess what? Those guys all shot well, hit threes, big threes, clutch threes. So that made the difference as well. So I think the Lakers just need to focus on that, man. Just getting some shooters, getting a center tandem that only adds to the defensive principles that Vogel's trying to teach and enhances AD's value. And again, and Harrell brings that insurance policy and gets when inevitably when AD is going to be hurt or needs 2 weeks off or whatever. And so that's why I would definitely bring back Harrell. And then of course, if you can find a reliable third option, go all out and do that. If not, again, just invest in shooters. That's the best thing that I can do for this team. But yeah, it sucks that the Lakers are not in, the Clippers are still in, because the Clippers basically worked extra hard to beat a one-man team, basically. Jesus Christ, we'll get to that. Luka and friends. But yeah, man, it's disappointing time in Lakerville. This year definitely felt like it was a year we could have gone back to back, and to lose in the first round to a young Suns team is very disappointing. Very disappointing. And on a side note, before we move on, Phoenix Suns, act like you've been there before. You got Devin Booker. Listen, and I'm not usually one of these guys, play the game the right way, guys. No, I'm not. I believe in principle. If you don't want guys to talk shit, if you don't want guys to celebrate, beat them. You do the way you shut up your opponent is you beat them. So I'm usually that guy, but the Suns were going extra hard on Thursday night. You got Jay Crowder doing Jay Crowder things with the salsa dance, Devin Booker with what and what, I thought so, all that shit. I'm like, Phoenix, calm down. First of all, you got lucky. You beat us when AD went down. Like, let's slow down there. It's not like you beat us at our best and you dominated us. Like, no, you beat us with our best player, second best player, arguably, down and out for the series. And guys didn't step up. Like, let's be fair here. All right. And not to mention you've been irrelevant for like 10 years. Let's stop. This is like your first shot in the sun here. Like, just like calm down. I don't know. That just irked me. Like, come on now. We'll take our ass whooping, we'll go. But like, you got Phoenix Suns, trolling us and doing, and it happens. It's par for the course. So I can't get too mad about it. But that just rubbed me the wrong way. So, that's just me. Sorry.
I get it.
But congrats to the Suns, man. Devin Booker had a outstanding game. He took that Kobe manifesto to heart, and boy, he worked us in the first half. Man,
just no conscience whatsoever. Absolute assassin.
Hey, I respect it. I wish the guy wearing 23 Purple and gold was
that's the reason why a lot of people don't mess with LeBron is because he doesn't.
That's what
he
has
that in him. It depends. He always goes into the game with the same approach for the most part, like feel out the game, get my teammates involved. I need my teammates, and sometimes, you just need to come out and impose your will on the game.
Just take over. Basketball. Just take over. Yeah. And that's the thing that I've always been critical about James Harden. I've been critical about other guys. It's like sometimes you just need to go off. Like what Kawhi did the other night. That where you're just like, no one on earth is going to stop me tonight. Like, put Jesus in front of me. He's getting this work. Like, that's what you need. That's what you need. Like, that's what you need sometimes. And that's what a great player does is he recognizes the moment. He recognizes the atmosphere. Like, yo, my team is slow. We're facing elimination. I need to go off. And LeBron just doesn't do that for whatever the reason. So, yeah, interesting offseason for the Lakers. All right, I guess we can move on to today's games and enough crying and whining by us. It's actually good to actually break down other people's teams and look at their shortcomings. Dallas. How do you lose this series? You lead the series 2-0.
Yeah.
You lead the series 2-0, then you blow it at home, and then you get back to LA. You figure out a way to win game 5. Then you have game 6 in your building. And you still blow it. And now you have game 7. And it's a game 7 that's pretty much tight for 3.5 quarters, 3 quarters.
The Clippers went on like a 30-5 run or whatever it was.
Yeah. And even then they still did everything possible to try to give the game away because that was, people forget that was still a 7-point game with 3 minutes left, something like that.
Yeah. It would have been at like 30 and then Reggie Jackson hit the dagger.
Right. Yeah. Talk to me first, I guess credit to the Clippers. Even though I hate it, credit to the Clippers because they did get off the
They're the better team. I mean, listen, last year's Clippers would have lost this series. That's what I'll say. So that's the credit I'm going to give the Clippers. Last year's Clippers team would have lost a series in 6. They would have lost in Dallas. But also like I said, you have a team that's like pretty complete, right? They have scores on the wings with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I think Ty Lue playing Reggie Jackson. I don't give Ty Lue a lot of credit with things, but deciding to play Reggie Jackson over Pat Beverly was a big upgrade. Marcus Morris was hitting threes. Luke Kennard became a factor in the last 2 games of the series. So the Clippers stepped up, man. And just at the end of the day, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's Luka versus everybody. It's kind of that, but it's also like the Clippers are just a better team. Like that's just is what it is. When you have to go zone and play zone the whole game, to me, going zone is kind of like, if you're not Syracuse, if that's not your thing, you're going zone.
If this is not college basketball, like if this is the NBA and you're going zone it's just
Rick Carlisle was trying all these different lineups, like Boban was playing. A lot of people get, and this is, I don't know if this is a hot take. I think if I tweeted this, it would get ratioed out the fucking building. But I don't think KP played all that bad. I don't think KP this whole series. I don't think he was great. But I think a lot of the reason why KP, and this is the first time I really watched the Mavericks, Luka don't pass on the ball. And the way Carlisle uses him, he just stands out on the perimeter. It's like you got this man who's like 7'3", 7'4", and you're not even using him correctly. You got Luka dominating the basketball. And of course, he's going to have like 14 assists because every time down, he has the basketball and he dribbles the clock out or whatever, and he makes a play for someone else, or he drives and kicks, or he shoots the basketball. But you literally have a 7'3", 7'4" guy who's supposed to be number 2 option, and you never run anything from him, ever. They did in the beginning of in the game, and then they went away from him. It's like, how do you expect your number 2 option or somebody else to get involved with the game if you don't give them the chance to do so? There were plenty of times Luka looked him off, and you could see KP visibly. You know how we talk about LeBron's body language? Same thing with KP. KP just like, I didn't get the ball again. Wide open. It happened like 4 times. Now, that's not making excuses for KP. He should be playing better. But at the same time, I think there's like this thing with the Mavericks where like it's so Luka-centric that it hurts like the role players. Like you're not going to have the role players set up if you have one guy dominate the ball. Just
it's the James Harden effect. It's the James Harden
much. And almost like a Russell Westbrook thing too. Like Russ will get you like 18 assists. But he'll get you 18 assists because he has the ball in every possession. He takes up the whole shot clock. And it's like, yeah, you'll get an assist because you just naturally you're going to pass the ball. And
which in that in itself makes the assist kind of overrated anyway.
Right. So so I play point guard. As a point guard, I think, all right, well, I got to get this guy going. This guy needs to take a shot. This guy needs to take a shot. This guy has to touch the ball. The natural way people play basketball, a lot of people, for the most part, when they get the basketball, they think, well, how can I score? What can I do? And a lot of people, if they don't touch the basketball in 4 or 5 possessions, they're going to, eventually when they touch the ball, they're going to take bad shots or they're going to force a shot because they don't feel involved in the game and they want to get involved in the game. And I think that happens a lot with like LeBron-led teams and Luka-led teams and Russell Westbrook-led teams. It's that you have your role players who are inconsistent because they're never really in the flow of a game. And I think that's what happened with the Mavericks. Once Luka goes cold or once he gets tired, they have no offense whatsoever. Or when he leaves the floor, they have no offense whatsoever because nobody's in the rhythm of the game because Luka controls the whole thing. It's like his greatness is like, one of the worst qualities of the team. It's the same thing with LeBron teams. Like LeBron controls the whole game. So players like Kevin Love doesn't really, show what he can do, or, your J.R. Smiths are hot and cold. It's like a necessary evil sort of thing. And that's what happened to the Mavs this series.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you on the KP thing. I get your logic, and I think you're right about it. I just think, again, he just doesn't. There's just something about KP, man. I feel like he's more talented than what he shows. Sometimes.
He don't like Luka. He doesn't like Luka. I guarantee you, he doesn't. Yeah, like Luka.
You could just tell that relationship isn't. They just don't fit. They don't complement each other.
That matters.
But that matters. Yeah, but that matters. But again, it's like, this is a guy that you're paying $28 million to. Like, yeah. I need you to do more. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's underperforming. There's no doubt.
He's underperforming. You got to demand the basketball. And and you know what? Hey, if you're a guy that I'm paying $28 million for, and the superstar Luka Doncic isn't passing you the ball, then you demand that fucking ball. You make yourself. And the thing about KP is, I get it. They're not utilizing him right, but you have to. Great players find a way to get the basketball, and they find a way to impose their will on the game. If KP is a great player, which I don't think anybody is accusing him of, but if he's a very good player, you figure out your role on that team. You figure out, okay, I'm not getting the ball. Okay, I'm going to do other things. You're 7'3". I'm sorry. Figure out a way to get some rebounds, block some shots, be a presence in the post. Like when Boban Marjanovic is like the best interior presence that you have on your team, when literally Kristaps Porzingis is standing right there, that's a problem for me. It just is. I'm sorry. He's got to play better. And he's not assertive enough on offense. You could tell that when he's not getting the ball in his spots, he just kind of whatever, or he just kind of phases out. Like it's just not a good look. And again, I'm paying this guy $28 million. And I know people will say, well, the money doesn't matter. No, it does matter.
It does.
He's taking up a part of your cap. He's 20. You pay a guy $28 million. You traded him. Exactly. You traded him to be the number 2 guy, and he hasn't been the number 2 guy at all. There's been spurts. There's been moments, but he really hasn't been that guy. And in a postseason series like this, he needed to be the guy. I'm not going to kill Luka because Luka basically almost beat this team by himself.
Oh yeah, I'm not killing Luka with what I just said.
But no, and I know you're not. I'm just saying I'm not gonna. I know people that want to kill Luka. Listen, there's a contingent of fans out there that hate Luka Doncic. I'm gonna put it out there. There's a lot of black fans that don't like Luka Doncic because he's white. Like it just is what it is, and it's like it's corny. Like to me, I get it. There's issues in the NBA. There's issues with structural racism in the NBA. Luka Doncic isn't that. Luka Doncic is a great player. You can like Luka Doncic and still call out that the NBA is bullshit for not having black coaches. You can like Luka Doncic and say that does the media overhype Luka Doncic and players like Luka Doncic because of their greatness? Yes, absolutely.
I don't think Luka's overhyped though.
No, but I'm saying, do people overhype white players because if there's a white player that has any little ounce of game, do they get overhyped to the max? Tyler Hero? Yes, absolutely. This isn't Luka, but this isn't the situation with Luka. Like Luka Doncic is that dude, and it's about time that NBA fans out there, and they know who I'm talking about when I say this, and they'll listen to this. Like it's about time that y'all start paying attention. Like this dude is a monster. He's a beast. Right. He deserves the accolades. Yeah. Listen, you're right about what you said. I just disagree with the KP thing. To me, he's
I think better. What you said and I said could be true though. You know what I mean? I think on one hand, what I said can be completely accurate. And then what you said is at the same time, yeah, Josh, that can be true. But at the same time, he still needs to figure out a way how to make his input on a series because we're paying him this amount of money and because he's supposed to be a number 2 option, and not just a number 2 option, like legitimately like a top 15 player in the league option. So I think what you said could be true. I just think that it's a bad match. I don't think I don't think he can play with Luka. I think he needs to be like in a more like free flowing ball movement, like high pick and roll, pick and pop system where he can shine. Because I legitimately do believe that if he gets traded to another team that runs an offense like that, I think he can thrive. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I think he's again, living in the moment, reactionary. You know how Twitter tends to be, and you go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, right? They hate him. There's not you won't find a single KP supporter on Twitter now.
Right.
His stock is so low right now on NBA Twitter. It's ridiculous.
Very low.
That's what I'm saying. Low. If I tweeted out what I just said, I'd get ratioed like 1,000%. And people think I know what I'm talking about.
I know. Look, is Kristaps Porzingis a talented player? Yes. Is he a great player? No, but he's a very good player, and he should be better than what he's playing. And I think that's what I think frustrates people. Is like, this guy, I think people know he's better than what he's playing. He's just not showing it. And I get it that the fit is not necessarily ideal. I get it that Luka has some fault in the usage, and I think that Rick Carlisle absolutely has some faults in the usage. But at the same time, you're a guy making $28 million a year. You're a guy that's perceived as a very good player, at the least a guy worthy of getting $28 million a year.
Right.
You need to play that way. That's just when you make that. And I know people hate hearing that because, it's money, whatever. No, it matters. Like, money is a sign of respect. And it's like, people respect you and expect you to be a guy. You need to be that. If not, then you become a situation where you're stealing money, and it's like, nah, that's not going to go over with a lot of people. So, yeah, I think KP is definitely one of the biggest issues with that team, and I think they need to address that. So,
I agree. I don't think he fits. He doesn't fit with Luka.
I definitely see him getting traded this offseason. I think it has to. You've given it 2 years now.
Yeah. And
it just hasn't worked. And you're in a situation now where you got to start putting some pieces around Luka, especially pieces that fit, that help him. Right. And they need to start doing something around Luka, man. So it's just, but it's a shame to see a guy that played that well, that was so dominant. I mean, to lose. I mean, he almost pulled it off. I mean, he almost beat the LA Clippers by himself, which is amazing when you think about it.
He was exhausted in the second half. Exhausted.
Yeah. And he also has to get in better shape. And I'm not one to give NBA athletes, body techniques and gym routines or anything like that. But no, he needs to get in better basketball shape.
Yeah.
To me, he's still got a little baby fat in him. He still needs to get a little bit. The thing that you see with him is that he needs to have a body that's able to withstand the NBA rigors. And that's the only thing that I would say. The only thing that he needs to improve on is that he needs to start getting his body prepped and conditioned to play 35 plus 40 minutes and have the ball in his hands constantly and get the physical abuse that he's going to get. Because you know how it is. Guys are going to be coming for him. Because he's white and they think he's soft. He's a European player, blah, blah, blah. That exists. It is what it is. Let's not hide it. Like, it is what it is. So people are going to come after him extra hard, and he's going to he's going to have to take that. And he's going to have to condition his body to not only take that, but also dish out that punishment. So, it's going to be interesting to see what he does to kind of change his game and elevate his game up to that particular area. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, he's still got time. I mean, he's 22, 23 years old, something like that. So he's got more than enough time to do that. But shout out to Luka, man. That guy's incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah, he is.
As far as the Clippers,
it worked. The West is wide open, man. You can convince me that any one of these four teams can win it.
Absolutely. The Western 1,000%. Conference is completely wide open. I think the Clippers have a shot. I will say this. If for the Clippers, there's no excuse now. Go to a final. I'm not asking you to win it. Get to a final. I don't want to hear any excuses anymore now. You got the Utah Jazz, you got the Phoenix Suns, and you got the Denver Nuggets without their second best player.
Right.
Get to a final. You got Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, one of the top 6 players in the world. You got Paul George, arguably one of the top 10, 15 players in the world. Get to a final. And you've got a quote unquote championship coach. Get to a final. That's it. I don't want to hear any excuses anymore. Like, I'm with you. I still think this is a disappointment if you don't get to a final this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They're too Jekyll and Hyde for me, man. I don't know if they get.
They're too. I don't think they're that good. I watched that team and I'm just like, Paul George.
They're Kawhi good Leonard. When Kawhi is like playing how he did in the last 2 games, they're going to be freaking tough, man. Because Paul George could chill on the perimeter, just hit open threes. Like, Paul George can like kind of play the guy who's off ball. Yeah. Kawhi's more the one who needs the ball in his hands. But if Kawhi could be what he was the past few games, and Paul can kind of just hit clutch shots like he's been doing, but I think Paul George had like 9 assists today. Like, it'll be fine.
They still need a point guard. I don't love the point guard situation. I know Reggie Jackson played well in this series, but still,
right.
You're really relying on Reggie Jackson.
Right.
We've seen that script before. It doesn't end well. Their bench, it's not that great. Marcus Morris is okay. Yeah, there's still pieces of that team I don't really love.
No, I get it.
But Yeah, they should be there at the end. They should be one of the teams that's there at the end, but we'll see. What do you that's another thing too I wanted to get before I got into the other games. Atlanta basically trying to have the ultimate meltdown of the ages. NBA, this has happened before. It's going to probably happen again. Can we stop this shit? Starting the second round while the first round is still technically going.
Man, it is one
of my just biggest pet peeves. I can't say it enough. I hate that shit. Like,
I do too.
It's so annoying. It's so weird. It's so stupid. Like, I get it. It's hard to schedule these games. You never know what's going to go the distance and whatnot. I understand that. But you can't start the second round and you've got a game 7 coming up on Sunday. I'm sorry. You can't do that. That's stupid. I think baseball starts, the NLCS and the ALDS is still going. Like, no. You think football starting the NFC Championship game and the wild card is going?
That's why I love football, man.
Because things make sense.
This is wild card weekend. This is championship weekend. Like it makes sense. I think baseball overlaps every once in a while, doesn't it? Am I
No, baseball does not. No, as far as I've been alive, no. The ALDS is going on. The NLCL starts. I'm trying to think.
Just from a fan perspective, like it like having it segmented like that gets me it gets me the mind frame. Like I went from watching the Sixers Hawks game 1, which is kind of like, oh, feeling this out, to like, oh shit, game 7. Like it's not
right. It's weird. It's weird. Plus I'm OCD, so I'm always going to bring up these little nuances anyway, like the uniforms and stuff. That just drives me insane. I think the only time that baseball's done it is like where I think they've had like a game 7 maybe earlier in the day and then like game 1 of like a championship series at night or something like that. And even that's not great, but at least I understand it. That game set, that preceding series and round is first.
Right.
You can't have game 1 Saturday night, game 1 of another series at 1:00, and then, oh, hey, game 7 of the previous round. It's like, what?
Game 7 is supposed to be like the featured game. Like nothing's supposed to happen until that game 7 happens.
Right. Right.
I don't want to know about the next round until we figure this shit out.
Right. There's a finality to game 7. And it just felt like, oh, it's just here.
It's like watching an episode of TV and then like stop pausing it and then going to the next episode, watching it and then going back. It doesn't make any sense.
Weird. It's weird. That's like episode 1 of the second season of a show airing at 1:00, but the final season finale of season 1 is airing after it. It's like,
literally
what?
Exactly
what?
What it is.
I one of my pet peeves. I'm sorry. Tangent. So Clippers for sure. This is no more excuses. Thoughts on I was going to start with the Nets Bucks, but no, let's go to the Hawks, because the Hawks almost had an implosion for the ages earlier in the game. Early in the day, I should say. Sixers. Hawks come out with a much needed game 1 victory. What are your thoughts on the Hawks and the Sixers? What are your thoughts on that series?
I mean, if you want to be honest with you, I thought the Sixers were going to beat the hell out of them today. So the fact that the Hawks went up as much as they did, even though they almost blew it, like the fact that they won the game is like, it doesn't matter. A game's a game. You know what I mean? No matter how you get it. This is what I don't get, Manny. And this blows my mind in every sport. There's like, especially, it happens a lot in football, but it happens in basketball too, where it's like, you have 2 of the best perimeter defenders on your team. You have Ben Simmons, who people say is probably the best defender as a point guard, like on your team. You have Tybal, who's same thing.
Yep.
Why? This is something that is so obvious that like I can grab the casual basketball fan and they would make this right decision. Why in the world is Danny Green starting on Trae Young? I don't like, to me sometimes, and you see it a lot with like football too, like offensive coordinators that get like really fancy on a 3rd and 1 play where it's just like, run the
they overthink
football.
They overthink it.
But what is it to overthink? You literally have the best defensive point guard on your team. And if you don't want to use him, you have another perimeter player like who could, and I know they're gonna get put in pick and rolls and like it's not just straight up. I get that. But come on, man! Like, what is the?
That has to be assignment for the whole game, right? No, I get it. I think the only thing that I can see rationally as the reason why that doesn't happen, as much as you or I would both like it, is like maybe I think coaches fear A, getting in foul trouble, B, that player getting tired or having a situation where, obviously you get caught in pick and roll switching where it becomes an issue. So I think they want to conserve that matchup till late in the game where they feel like it's more of a value than in the first quarter. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the first quarter is just as important as the fourth quarter because you set the tone. But that being said, man,
but there's two defenders I just named who I would put before Danny Green.
Right.
You can switch back and forth. Like you don't have to have Ben on the whole time.
Well, and plus Danny Green is still living off his reputation that he had in San Antonio.
Yeah,
he's not that guy anymore.
Defender. He was the defender last year when he was at Lakers. Like, to me, it's just like sometimes these coaches literally 2 + 2 is 5, and you're paid to be like this, basketball savant.
You know what I think it is? I think coaches sometimes they feel like when the obvious answer is so obvious, they talk themselves out of it. It's like, well, if it's so obvious, everybody's going to know. So this is how we show we're really smart. We do the opposite. So that shows you that it's like, no, you're overthinking it. That's what it is. It's overthinking it. It's like,
but this is Doc Rivers, who has won an NBA championship, was a game away from winning a second one. And you.
It happens to the best of them, man. It happens to the best of them, man.
But that is such an obvious. I get what you're saying, man. But this is like the equivalent.
I'm saying you're right. I'm just, it boggles my mind.
1 yard line, Super Bowl on the line. We're going to pass the ball. It's
Pete Carroll.
Sometimes coaches just we have one of the best running backs in the league who almost just took it in the play before that.
Mm-hmm.
I will bet my life on Marshawn Lynch getting you a yard 3 straight times. You hand the fucking ball off.
Right.
Right. What is wrong with you? This is obvious shit.
Or you sneak it in with your running quarterback. But hey,
when Bill Belichick's not calling a timeout, right? So the time's wasting. You know what I mean? The clock's on your side.
One of the worst calls in sports history. But hey,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like this stuff is so obvious. It's so obvious. I shouldn't. And this is what I actually had this conversation with my father in the car today, talking about Donald Trump, and I'm not going to make it political, but I'm kind of making it political. And I was telling him, I was like, I never in my life want to feel smarter than the president of the United States of America. And for 4 years, I legitimately thought I was not just smarter than the president, above and beyond smarter.
And his cabinet, by the way?
Logically, everything. When it came to economics, when it came to social justice, when it came to how the world works, when it came to I never want to feel that way. So when I watch basketball, I never want to feel smarter than an NBA head coach.
Josh, first of all, you're wrong. We're back to brunch. The world is fixed. Everything is everything is right now, and Joe Biden's president. So stop. Don't do that. Come on.
But even
the Trump was just a mirage. It was just a mirage.
But even with my beef with Joe Biden, right? Which don't get me started on the fucking infrastructure compromises he's going through right now. But even with my beef with Joe Biden, I don't think I'm smarter than Joe Biden. No, I don't. I don't think I'm smarter than him. I don't think I can sit in a conversation with Joe Biden and start talking about economics and how the world works. And he will absolutely run circles around me and what my knowledge. He will, because he's been in politics for the past 30 years and this is what he does. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think he's more experienced than you. That doesn't make him smarter than you.
I think he's smarter than me.
He's been in politics longer. So yes, he knows how politics works.
But if Joe Biden, for instance, right now, and I can't believe I took this in the political lane. I'm sorry.
You did it.
But Republicans aren't going to sign off on anything you do. Right? This is so fucking obvious. Right. Why are you trying to compromise? This is literally 2 + 2 is 4. You know what I mean? And it's moments like that where it's I don't think I know more than basketball than Doc Rivers, but there's moments or two with head coaches where I'm I know this. I know this. You shouldn't be doing this. There's no way in hell something this obvious to me.
But that's why I think
overlooked by you, and that's why the Dr. Rivers decision bothered me.
But that's why I think they overthink it, right? Because they get caught up into a lot of coaches have egos, man, and a lot of it is also I have to prove how smart I am and how genius I am. That everybody thinks I should go left. I'm gonna go right.
Right.
Just cause it's a lot of that in it, man. Just knowing a lot of coaches that coach just in different arenas it's ego, man. It's just sometimes it's ego gets in the way, and that's the worst thing that can get in the way when it comes to coaching, man, because it's sometimes you have to, even if it's obvious, that doesn't not make it the right decision. It's no, sometimes the best decisions are the obvious decisions to make. And it's No, I'm with you 100%. The one thing I will disagree with you is I think the Hawks had a hell of a shot in this series.
Yeah.
I look at these two teams and I'm like, the Hawks are more talented than the Sixers. Look, the Sixers have the best player. Let's start there. Every time you have the best player.
Two best players. I take Ben over Trae.
You're smoking. No way. No way. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not the biggest Trae Young fan. I'll be the first to say it. Trae Young, Ben Simmons is not in Trae Young's league. I'm sorry. He's not. No way. No way.
I disagree.
No way. Listen, I think the Sixers have some. Listen, I don't want to live in the moment and I don't want to be reactionary. Again, it's one game. A lot of things can happen. The tenor of the series really hasn't been set yet, arguably yet. But I think the Sixers have some matchup problems. Again, the Sixers to me are a team that's built for 82 games, but they're not necessarily built for a playoff series. To me, they have Joel Embiid, who obviously is great, goes without saying. But when your second best player is essentially a more athletic, better version of Draymond, that's a problem. Like Ben Simmons' issues is that he's basically Draymond Green, but he's asked to be something more that he can't be. Like I don't think Ben Simmons to be a championship team, Ben Simmons cannot be your second best player. He can't. I'm sorry. I just don't see it. He's not aggressive enough offensively. He's not versatile. I shouldn't say he's not aggressive enough offensively. He's not versatile offensively, and he's a net negative shooting basketball. He's a net shooting. He's a net negative at the free throw line.
I don't think it's a net negative on the offensive end, though. I think he does so much on the offensive end that it weighs itself out. To be honest with you,
but again, what he does to me is more conducive to being a third best option on a team, on a great team. I'm talking about a truly great championship team.
Is scoring wise. Tobias Harris is more of a scoring option than Embiid is.
Yeah, but it's.
Simmons is.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Even Tobias Harris, good player, nice. You know, but it's Tobias Harris is going to get you a hard on. Is he the guy that you're just like, oh yeah, Tobias Harris, let's go, baby? Like, no. To me, they're a very good team, but to me, Embiid is the guy, and if he's off or he's hurt, that team has some serious flaws, and I just don't think they can score the basketball enough. I think that the one thing that the Hawks are going to score. Defensively, they're not shit, but they're going to score the basketball. So I think the Sixers in this series are going to have to score, and I just don't know if they can keep up with the Hawks. I just don't. I think defensively they'll be there. I think they'll bring the physicality, but I think they have to pray for Trae Young and those guys to have an off night. And I think the Sixers have to lean on their defense to really make this a really good look. I'm not saying the Sixers are done or they're going to lose the series. I think this series, I think this is a 6 or 7 game series.
Right.
But I think that the Hawks are in it. I really do. The Hawks showed me something because they went into MSG, a young team like that. They lose that game 9 times out of 10. They didn't take their foot off their gas. The Knicks helped them, by the way, too.
Yeah.
But they could have easily blown that game.
Yeah.
They could have easily laid down, hey, we got game 6 in our building, young team, let's go home and clinch it there. No, they didn't. They kept their foot on the gas. They kept their intensity level. They took it. They took the fight to the Knicks. That showed me out. This Hawks team is for real. I don't know if they're there yet.
Out Nate McMillan.
Yeah. Nate McMillan.
No, they're for real, man. And they're going to be around for a while. To me, here's the thing. Again, take out that first quarter with Doc Rivers and that freaking decision that he made. This is a totally different game. If Ben Simmons or Tybal start on, it sets a different tone. The Hawks, I don't think they come out as hot. You got to really. Philly was keeping up with them for the first half of the first quarter. Yeah. I think they're the better team. They're better defensively. I think once Doc figures out what works defensively, I think you see that Hawks offense. It's not going to be what it was in game 1. It's going to be more like it was in the second half. I think Philly's a better team. I think they have options. I think Seth Curry's huge. I think if Seth is hitting his threes, that opens up the floor. I think if Tobias gets going, they'll be fine. I think they're fine. I do. I think the Hawks are going to make it a series. I had the Sixers in 6 to start it off. So, and that's with Embiid playing. If Embiid goes down, my tone might change.
Yeah, that's the thing. Embiid, who knows? He's got a slight meniscus tear. who the hell knows? Who the hell knows if he's always had it or if it's always been there and it's just
that shit is whacked. I had a meniscus tear, man. I played with a meniscus tear, and that it limits your mobility. You did,
yep.
You same.
Yeah, I've had it and an ACL, so I know it very well. Obviously, I don't sit here and try to pretend like I'm some NBA player, but I can imagine that being an issue that compromises you. Look, I got to assume that he's healthy if he's playing, and he did put up 28, 30 points tonight. So I have to assume that he's good enough to play at least in this series. You're right. If he goes in, I think this is a completely different series. Look, I'm not saying the Hawks are going to win. I just think the Hawks are right there. I don't think this is the mismatch. This is a really good series. And again, I look at the roster and I'm like, outside of Embiid, he's Embiid. He's the guy he's the best player on the court.
Right.
After him, I think the Hawks have an advantage everywhere else. Like I think Bogey's better. Yeah, I do. I think Bogey's better than everybody else on the Sixers.
I think Colin
Bogey?
Yeah.
Tobias is more consistent, but I think he's not better than I think I'd take Bogey over.
Come
Simmons
on, Manny.
Simmons. What does Simmons do well? I don't like Ben Simmons.
He does everything well, except shoot the basketball, but he doesn't need to shoot the basketball. He shoots like 50% from the floor.
Yeah. Okay, I won't take him over Simmons, but listen,
you can convince me Trey over Simmons. You can convince me of that.
Trey over Simmons. Trey over Simmons for sure, right? So all right, Embiid's the best player, Trey's the second best player,
right?
I'll give you Ben Simmons as the third best player.
Tobias.
After that,
Tobias,
John Collins,
Tobias. Come on, Manny. It's not by much. John Collins, by the way, with the freaking posterizing alley, man.
Ooh, John, that kid's scratching the surface of how good he is.
Yeah, he is.
That's the thing. Like the upsides on the Hawks. That's what I'm saying. Like
in 2 years, and 2 years from now, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe finals for sure.
Maybe this year, man.
Maybe it's possible.
Listen.
The Sixers.
Don't be shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the Sixers blow because that's a typical Sixers thing to do. So like, it wouldn't shock me. But I think the Sixers are the better team, and they're way better defensively. If I'm going to pick one team to get stops at the end of the game, it's going to be the Sixers.
Yeah, that's the thing that you have on your side there is that the Sixers are miles better defensively. But I kind of look at this thing as the same. Obviously, it doesn't have the same dynamics as the Knicks series because obviously the Knicks don't have a Joel Embiid. But I think the problem that's going to come down to is offensively. If the Hawks are hot, or if the Hawks manage to kind of figure out what Doc is trying to do to him, try to take away Trae Young, and they could get production from. If they could kind of keep it manageable and let Trae Young just go off in the fourth quarter. And I know the Sixers are going to do everything in their power to kind of keep that happening. To me, I think that no matter what you do, I think the Hawks are going to score. I think that I don't.
You sound like you're taking the Hawks in this. Like,
listen, man.
You sound like you're grifting a little bit here.
I am going to take Sixers in 7.
Okay.
But I reserve the right to change my mind. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna take Sixers in 7, but I will not be surprised.
I will give you the right to change your mind if Embiid goes down because I want that same right.
Okay. Yeah. Sixers in 7, but I reserve my right to change.
Okay. Sixers in 6. I got Sixers in 6.
You know what would tell me a lot about this series? I want to see how the Hawks come out in game 2.
Bro, if the Hawks win game 2,
listen, man. And let's be honest. The Hawks should have won this game by 20. They did everything in their power to give away that game the last 3 minutes of that game. Like they literally were offering it on the silver platter to the Sixers. And give credit to the Sixers. They made the plays to get it to that point, but let's be fair. The Hawks were trying their hardest to blow this game. So it's an interesting series. It's a really interesting series that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to because I like it. It's an interesting matchup that I think can go either way. I really do. But smart money would have to still be on the Sixers because they have the best player, arguably the best coach, better defensively. Those are always good categories to have if you're a team. I don't know, man. The Hawks are coming.
They are coming. They're going to be around for a while. Kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, I know, right? Atlanta gets this fucking squad that has the potential to be fucking that terrible ass city and fan base. They don't deserve it. Yeah, they don't deserve it. They'll be typical Atlanta. The Hawks are like the next Golden State, and there won't be any fans at the Eastern Conference Finals. But hey, that's Atlanta for you. What are your thoughts on Nets Sixers?
Disappointed in the Bucks. I thought they'd have a better showing. I was really impressed with the way the Nets moved the basketball. Harden goes down, you could easily just kind of pack it in, sort of thing. But I was really impressed with how the Nets ran offense. I mean, they were whipping the ball around the perimeter, driving and kicking. Kyrie and KD getting everybody involved, hitting shots. Mm-hmm. You get players like Mike James and Bruce Brown making an impact. Like Nick Claxton playing defense on Chris Middleton. Like it was nothing. I mean, fantastic defense on Middleton.
Yep.
It's one of those things where it's like they get a lot of crap. I'm gonna say a lot of crap, but a big question mark with the Nets is how they're going to respond defensively. And to me, they've rotated fine. I'm not saying they were like the Lakers or one of the better defensive teams in the league, but they rotated fine. And when you have players like Nick Claxton and Mike James and Bruce Brown and Blake Griffin with his effort, a lot of defense is effort,
Yeah,
and you
absolutely.
have players the Kyries are kind of aloof and James Harden's kind of aloof because they're more focused on the offensive side. But when you have KD, who's a plus defender, and then three other people who give a fuck and want to win and are trying and are and their own kind of good defenders, that makes a big difference. And defensively, man, if they can play like that defensively for the rest of the playoffs, they're winning the championship. I don't see anybody beating them, especially if Harden gets back.
Brooklyn is the team to beat.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you saw anything last night that changes that. If they don't win a championship, there should be a federal investigation. Honestly, they there should be a fucking
release the Fauci emails.
Release the Fauci emails. Yeah, that needs. They need to release the Adam Silver emails. He jinxed it. He booked it. So the Nets don't win. No, seriously, man. I mean, they are head and shoulders the clear favorite. I mean, it's not even. I mean, you can't even argue it. You watch that team and it's just they should easily win a championship, especially now with the Lakers out, the Clippers being the Clippers. I don't see anybody in the West that competes with them. Maybe Utah. Even then, I'm not so sure.
Nah.
Yeah, I think it's Brooklyn, man. I think they are so much head and shoulders above everybody else.
I agree.
That again, it should just be it should literally be an investigation if they don't win. Obviously, it's sports. You got to play the games. Yeah. Things can happen. An injury, i.e. Harden, if this is more serious than what it is. KD, something happens. Obviously, guys don't play well. Look, if the Nets don't win a championship, it's because of the Nets.
I agree.
I really believe that. If they don't win a championship, they have a meltdown. They fall apart. They have KD has a LeBron 2011 finals moment, that type of thing. That's the only thing I could see happening. Other than that, I just don't see anybody beating them. I mean, they're so good. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I think their biggest competition to me, I think the Bucks match up better than the Sixers kind of, I tried convincing myself that the Sixers could probably knock them off in a 7-game series, but the more I think about it, the more I just can't see them scoring with the Nets. Although, I do think they're good defensively. You're already having trouble with Bogdanovich and Trae Young. Can you imagine what you're going to be with Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
I think the Bucks probably with their length, with their size, with their 3-point shooting, probably are the one team you can convince me can knock off the Nets in a 7-game series. But after seeing game 1, I mean, I don't know how that's going to happen. Granted, the Bucks just couldn't hit a 3. So sometimes you got to take that.
They'll shoot better.
The Bucks will shoot better. Outside of Brook Lopez, no one gave Giannis anything. Middleton was awful. There was just nothing out of Giannis and Middleton. So you got to figure they're going to play better. They need some answers defensively because the Nets just, I mean, whatever they wanted, they got.
What would you do? What would you do? Put your coaching hat on. What would you do?
You got to, here's the thing. When you have 2 or 3 superstars, for me, you got to limit everybody else. You can't have Joe Harris going for 20. You know what I mean? You can't have Matt James getting 14 points. You can't have Bruce Brown getting 12. You can't have Blake Griffin going for 18. I would let Durant and Kyrie kind of get theirs and just limit everybody else, if that makes any sense. That's what I would do personally. Because if you try to get the ball to Kyrie's hands, it's going to go to Durant. You can't double one of these guys because their ball movement's too smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I would figure out some type of game plan where I just limit everybody else because Durant and Kyrie, they're going to give you buckets. It just is what it is. This is what it is. But I wouldn't give him the 3. Like Budenholzer plays like this laid back, like give him the 3 type. Yeah. You can't do that with this team. This team's too freaking talented to give him the 3 ball. You got to press up on them. I would put Giannis on KD, and I would put like probably like Middleton on Kyrie with his size, and everybody else. If you beat me, you beat me. But I got length on both of your best players. Period. I know Middleton on Kyrie sounds like a little bit of overkill, but no, I'm gonna stick you on Kyrie. You shoot over me, go by me.
Yeah, I think that when you have a team like the Nets, where you can make the argument that they have 3 great players.
Yeah,
I think it's like having a great quarterback in football, where you're playing that quarterback. Like if I'm playing Mahomes, right, and I'm, the Browns, I know I need to put up points. I'm not going to beat Patrick Mahomes 17-10. I'm most likely going to have to score 30 points to beat Patrick Mahomes. Like, even if Patrick Mahomes struggles, you know that he's good enough to, at the very least, get you 24 to 28 points on a bad day. And that's the same thing when you're playing against a team like the Nets, where it's like KD and Kyrie and James Harden can all have off nights, and that team is still going to at the very least put up 120 points.
Right.
So I think the Bucks have to score in this series. They have to put their best offensive lineup out there. And I don't know what that lineup is. They have to hit the 3. They have to hit the 3. Giannis has to be the second best player on the court. Like, if not the best, he has to be the second best player on the court. And Middleton and Drew have to play exceptionally well. Like, they can't have off nights like they had the night before. So that's a lot of pressure on the Bucks to say, like, yo, we need our 3 best players to be great every single night. Right. You know what I'm saying? The Nets don't necessarily have to do that. I think the Bucks do. And that's what I think the difference is in this series. I think Giannis will be okay, because I don't think the Nets have anybody that can really bother Giannis. You can have KD on him at times, but I don't think that's necessarily an ideal matchup. Not saying that KD can't hold his own. I wouldn't do that. I just think that the Bucks they need Drew Holiday to step up and play well. And it's actually twofold, because they need Drew Holiday to not only play well offensively, but they need his defense, especially on Kyrie late in the game.
He's the X factor in all this. If he could, I just said put Middleton on Kyrie because of the length, but like Kyrie went off. Like Drew Holiday is supposed to be like, and he is one of the best defenders in this league. That can't happen.
No, that can't happen.
You can't let Kyrie into the paint to get him to kick it out and move the ball. Like that just can't happen. I mean, and I said this before. I think the reason why the Bucks can beat the Nets, you convinced me that the one team you can convince me is the Bucks, is because defensively, like you can put Giannis on KD, you can put Middleton and Harden, you can put Drew Holiday on Kyrie, or you can switch it up or whatever. Like if there's pick and roll situations, like you can switch certain things.
Right.
They got to play better defensively, and they have to hit the 3. And I just think in game 1 they didn't do any of that. But it wouldn't surprise me, man, if this goes 6 or 7. It really wouldn't.
I don't want to be reactionary off of one game. It was a bad game. So and plus the Bucks were coming off a layoff too, so that also did probably help as well. I think this is a series where they're going to miss Dante DiVincenzo, because I think they're going to miss that other guy that can kind of create his own shot and also can hit the 3. I think they're going to miss DiVincenzo in the series a lot. I'd almost be tempted to double Kyrie, or at least trap Kyrie constantly, and just because I think KD's unstoppable on his own, but when he has Kyrie out there just floating around, just able to just get any shot that he wants, it's over, right? And I'm just talking about it strictly if you don't have the James Harden effect. If he has James Harden, I mean, forget it. That's 3 guys right there that easily can go off for 50 in a blink of an eye, right? Well, I just think that I think if Harden is out, I think that you almost have to try to contain Kyrie the best way possible. And that means trapping him on every play, or trying to trap him on every play, double him as much as you can within reason.
You would rather have Blake Griffin shoot a 3.
Right. Because my thing is, if I double Kyrie and I don't let Kyrie get his, you're going to have to prove to me that Joe Harris can beat me for 4 games. You're going to have to prove to me that Blake Griffin can beat me for 4 games. I know KD's going to go off. I know KD's going to do his thing. I say, God bless him. If KD's going to beat me, he's going to have to score 50. Go ahead. I will give you every opportunity to go to fuck off. I'm going to double and trap Kyrie, and I'm going to make Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, Claxton, Mike James, Bruce Brown. I'm going to let these guys beat me. Can they beat me for 4 games? And if they can, God bless them.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's totally opposite what I said, but I think what you said makes more sense. But I think that it kind of killed him in the first game.
And it's easier said than done. Said than done, by the way.
Blake Griffin just went for 18, right? Because they let him shoot the three and he just ended up killing him. Like I'm not comfortable with Joe Harris shooting a wide open three. I'm just not.
I'm not either. I get it. It's easier said than done. And
but you would rather that than KD and Kyrie killing you.
Because then what's the alternative then? Right? Because again, and the only reason I bring that up as an alternative is because I'm not confident that you're going to get 3 great performances for 4 straight games out of Giannis, Drew, and Chris Middleton. You can get 2.5, maybe 3, 4, and that's what they're going to need. They need Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Chris Middleton to be great,
right,
for them to have a chance in the series
on both sides of the ball. See, my thinking is like I would rather try to force the Nets into like some type of hero ball thing because they will get into that. Kyrie will play hero ball, KD will play hero ball. Yeah. So for me, like if you double Kyrie or if you double KD, you're kind of forcing them to move the basketball. And I'm a huge proponent in like if everyone's touching the ball's moving, you have no chance. Like you just don't. Like I would rather have the ball in Kyrie's hands and have him dancing or KD dancing and Joe Harris and Blake Griffin, they're cold all game and they're not contributing to anything. To me, like if you double, you're pretty much forcing ball movement. If that makes any sense. I get what you're saying.
I agree. I still think ultimately though, I still think you got to score to beat the Nets. You got to score to beat the Nets and then play clutch defense down in the end to try to beat them. And I just don't know if Milwaukee can do that. Because again, the one thing I will say, the Nets haven't really faced any adversity. I mean, I guess you can count not having Harden in the first couple minutes of the game. They really haven't faced any adversity. I want to see what this team does. The one game they lost in Boston, Boston kind of went off in the second half. That doesn't really count. I want to see them down 5 with a minute left, in
a tie
chucking up shots. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I want to see that situation and we may not get it. I don't know, but I want to see them in that situation and see what really happens. Or I actually want to see them where they lose and they're down 0-1 in a series, how they come out. What's the intensity level like? What, that's a lot to see. You're going to learn a lot about the Nets when they actually face some adversity. Yeah. And, we'll see. We'll see if they go through it.
Learn a lot about Budenholzer too, to see if he's stubborn. Let's see if he does anything.
It's a big series for him, man. It's a big series for him.
I agree.
In a way, I kind of feel like the Bucks have no pressure, but in a way they do because it's like, if not now, when? It's like, Jesus, right? But I get the thing that would worry me about the Bucks though is like, man, those 3 guys have to play great every night. Every night they can't have an off night. And I'm not saying Drew Holiday has to go for 40, but I mean he's got to at least give you 17 to 24 points.
And you're right, they do have to score. You're 1,000% correct on that. But like, you have too good of a defensive team for them to chop you up the way they did last game. I mean, just absolutely chop them up. You do have to score. You're 1,000% about that. They got to hit the 3. They got to play better. But I didn't think the Nets, as good as they are and as talented as they are, like I didn't expect Blake to go off like that. Like the ancillary pieces did way more than I thought they would. And I'm not sure if that carries into Milwaukee. I think when the series goes back to Milwaukee, you're not going to see those guys make a difference.
I agree, and that's what I'm banking on too. Is that I don't think you'll see that type of. I don't think they'll kill their defense like that for 4 straight games. I think their defense will definitely make the adjustments. Hopefully, it is Budenholzer. We'll see. I think their defense will play better, but I just think ultimately, even the defense can be better. I still think they need to score. They just need to score because I trust the Bucks defense more than I do their offense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Overall, though, man, I think we had some really interesting matchups in the postseason. I really do. I think this round is going to be very interesting.
All this whole small market. These are like, I'll tell you what, if we get a Jazz Suns Western Conference Finals, that's going to be fun as hell. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree.
And you give me a Nets Sixers with everyone healthy, that's going to be fun. That's what I'm hoping for.
Listen, when I think the small market thing from a ratings perspective, look, is the housewife in Idaho does she know who Devin Booker is? No. Does she care about the Suns? No. And those are the people that drive ratings. Those are the casual fans that all sports wants to reel in, right? They want to reel in the casual fan that doesn't pay attention. Those are the guys that drive advertising. Those are the guys, they already have us. We're going to watch it. We're going to watch finals if it's Utah and Milwaukee. Is the housewife in Idaho going to watch it?
Yeah,
no, she's not. Disgusting. Is the guy that isn't much of an NBA fan, but he's a football fan? Is he going to watch? Alabama, Utah, right? Yeah. Right. Is he going to watch Utah Bucks? No, he's going to watch Lakers Bucks.
Who's Donovan Mitchell?
Who's this guy? There's black people in Utah? What? No, man. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the Western Conference it's really fun this year. There's some new blood. I think the ultimate theme I think you're seeing this year is that you're starting to see that next generation really kind of take their
that's
kicking
the theme
that
of this
door.
year. That's the theme. That's the theme of this year.
Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Ja, Trae Young, obviously Tatum, who else? Trae Young, you said. Yeah. You're seeing that next generation kind of, it's not the same olds with Steph and LeBron and James Harden. And right. I mean, obviously those guys are still a factor, but you're starting to see that next generation of superstars, the guys that I think will dominate this decade. This might be the first of many matchups between Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell going forward. This might be and then obviously Luke. Yeah. And then obviously Luka's in that equation. Who knows when Zion makes it to the postseason? We'll see what happens there. I mean, it's fun. You start seeing that next crop, that
passing
that next
the torch,
group.
baby.
Right, yeah. Right. So that's the theme of this postseason for me. And it's gonna be fun, really fun matchups all throughout. I think the only one that I'm not like, I'm gonna even say that because I think that's an interesting matchup too. I think the Denver Phoenix matchup is interesting too.
I think they're all good.
And we didn't even talk about that. What do you got for Phoenix and Denver?
I got Phoenix. I just think Denver without Jamal Murray, there's only so far you can go. To me, I'm really disappointed in the Blazers. There's no reason why you have the three best guards in a series, and to me, I think guards win you. I think guard play wins you. Playoff series or games in the playoffs. Your best player,
especially in today's NBA.
Yeah, there's just, I don't care how bad you are defensively. There's no way Austin Rivers and Monty Morris, who I love, by the way, love Monty Morris.
I do too.
There's no reason why they should be outplaying CJ McCollum and Norm Powell. And I don't even mean from like a points perspective. I don't care if CJ and Norm had more points. I'm just talking about from like an overall impact of a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know what's up with that team, man. Like they have too much talent to be as average. I wouldn't say they're average, but as like underwhelming as they are.
Slightly above average.
There's no.
They're average. They're average.
Yeah,
they're 16. They're above average. They're above average.
They have too much talent. That team has too much talent. That team has too much talent. Their starting lineup's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That tells me that there's a coaching issue.
So Stotts being gone.
Stotts is, I like Terry Stotts, but I sometimes, man, a coach just, that voice gets old, man. It just happens in every sport. Sometimes a guy's been there for too long. Stotts has been there a long time. I mean, he was there before Dame, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Was Stotts there before Dame?
I don't know, but he's been there for a while. You're right.
He's been there for a while. Sometimes that the same plays just don't resonate anymore. The same voice, the same pregame speech just doesn't resonate anymore.
Yeah, and Nurk came out afterwards saying he was unhappy with how he was being used.
Yeah, that's never a good look. Obviously, I don't like always just blaming the coach because I think that's low hanging fruit.
I agree.
Coaches coach, players play. Players need to play better. But that team was so bad defensively, and that team has some serious issues, and they're kind of at a crossroads right now because they have this. Not kinda, yeah, they are at a crossroads. They really have to kind of look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, what do we want to be? What kind of team are we? Like, what are we? What is this franchise going to look like? Obviously, I don't think Dame is going anywhere, and I don't think they're getting rid of Dame. But I think they have to start looking at it like, okay, does Dame and CJ work?
No.
Does this work? Do we need? And if we do keep Dame and CJ, how do we make it work? What do we add? What kind of coach do we bring in? What kind of players do we bring in to make this happen? They are at a crossroads for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I'm glad Jason Kidd took himself out of the consideration for coaching. First of all, I don't think Jason Kidd's a good coach anyway. So,
someone explain to me how this man keeps getting opportunities.
Because he's Jason Kidd, and he's a Hall of Famer, and because he was a great point guard. So people feel, how it is with great players, that people think that translates over to great coaching. How many times do I have to tell people, just because you were a great player does not mean you were a great coach? Very few great players become good coaches. Very few. You're muted.
Or executive, hint, Michael Jordan.
Right. Yeah, very few. It happens very rarely. So, yeah, that team. What would you do? What would you do if you're Neil? By the way, I think he needs to be fired too. By the way,
yeah, Neil, he does. I would trade CJ.
For who?
I would trade CJ. I don't know for who. I mean, I think this is. I don't think Blazer fans would like this, but I think a CJ for Paul George trade would make sense for both teams.
Agreed.
So I think that's one thing. I have a friend who told me that he thinks that if you trade CJ for like Tim Hardaway Jr. and KP, like a new fresh start with KP, and maybe he can work off Dame, you'd be taking a chance there. But it's also like you get a shooter in Tim Hardaway, and you also get KP, and I don't know. But I would definitely trade CJ. I think the CJ for Paul George thing makes the most sense because now you have somebody opposite side Covington who can, play the wing and play some defense at the same time. And then you have Nurk in the middle. I keep Nurk, and I would probably run a little bit more of a high pick and roll offense with Nurk or get him more involved in the post instead of running like this 5 wide and just have Dame.
And you can keep Norman Powell. Norman Powell can replace CJ.
If you can resign him,
right?
I mean, he's going to cost some money. So that's what I would do. I think they need to change their offense. Their offense was ridiculous, but at the same time, like it was very predictable. So like if you get into the playoffs, like it's like, all right, Dame's bringing the ball up, and it's 5 wide basically, maybe a pick and roll with Nurk, and that's it. You need to get Nurk the ball in the post. You need to run sets for Norm. You got to run stagger screens. You got to do different things. In the playoffs, like you need those type of things. So I think that's what I would do. I'd run a little more of like a traditional half court set, and get Nurk more involved and have a presence down low. So it's not just Dame and perimeter guys.
Interesting. Yeah. I agree. I think it may be time to reevaluate the CJ dynamic there. Who do you trade him for? Maybe a 3-team trade. I wouldn't mind CJ on the Lakers. Like if you could swing some sort of like a 3-team trade or whatever.
CJ would be for the Lakers. Oh my God.
Yeah. Hell, even Norman Powell.
Norm actually might be better because he doesn't need the ball, step and shoot,
right.
Plays D. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys that I have my eye on. It's kind of like to me, Norman Powell or CJ would be the perfect third option where it's like, yeah, those are guys that are just perfect. They can fill in. They can do a lot of different things. Norman probably is a little bit better, like you said. Yeah, as far as the CJ, I mean, it's too early to tell who, I guess we could play the trade machine game and who goes where, what makes the cat works, that sort of thing. I don't know. What about Karl Anthony?
Karl Anthony Towns?
I
heard rumors that he would go. Karl Anthony, he's interesting because now if you get Karl Anthony Towns right, that means you don't have Nurk.
Yep.
So is that really an upgrade? Is it?
Yeah, that's an upgrade over Nurk.
I wouldn't say Karl Anthony Towns is better.
Oh, now you're sure.
Like,
is Karl Anthony Towns better than Nurk?
No, yeah,
I'm not even like the biggest Karl Anthony Towns fan.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that in the sense of like it's debatable. He is better, but like, is he gonna like take you over the top? Like, is he the answer? Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, because Karl Anthony Towns. See, it's difficult to say because I guess it's what you perceive. Is there a perception of Karl Anthony Towns, right? Do you think Karl Anthony Towns is that player that literally changes the way the team is built and constructed? And he elevates that team. Do I think he elevates Portland? I think he's an upgrade over what they currently have. Does he elevate Portland? No, because I have to see what the other moves that are obviously if you're trading. So you would have to see, okay, what are you trading What are you trading Minnesota to get Karl Anthony Towns? Obviously, any deal would have to be Nurk
and a player. Honestly, that's all you really need.
Nurk and a player.
I don't think Karl, like it'd be like Nurk and Simons
a couple draft picks, maybe
a pick.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then of course you have Dame, you have Covington, you have Towns. Does CJ stay in this equation then?
No.
You're still trading CJ. So then you have to see, okay, what you're getting rid of CJ for.
Now, if you get Paul George and you have Dame, Paul George, and Karl Anthony Towns, that's
too many guys. Too many guys.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I think Paul George could play off the ball. I don't think Paul George doesn't need the ball. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. Same with Covington. Covington don't need the ball. Just when he's
Covington, I actually love the Covington Towns.
Yeah.
Duo there in the front.
If I'm open, I'll shoot it. If not, you don't got to give me the ball. I just got to be a threat from the outside. Paul George can play that role. And then when Dame is out, you can have Paul George kind of handle the ball a little bit. I think that would be cool. You know what'd be interesting too? CJ for Julius Randle.
Ooh. That would be very interesting. Although I I think a lot of people would see that as a downgrade. For the Knicks, I think it'd be great.
The only thing that worries me with CJ, he's just terrible defensively.
He's always hurt.
Yeah. But like to have someone like CJ who can just give the ball to and say, here, go win us a game. Just go score.
See, it's weird. CJ's a closer. I don't want to rely 82 games on CJ, but I just want, like, if I could get CJ for like 25 games in a regular season and like a full healthy postseason run, great. CJ as your best player for 82 games, it's a little bit unfair because we've never seen it. So it's kind of like, okay, well, we don't know because we've never seen him in that position. You know, maybe he could be a guy that averages 27 when he's the guy. I don't know.
I'll say this: like if you replace CJ with Julius Randle, I mean, if you put CJ on the Knicks during this Hawks run, I'm not saying they beat the Hawks, but there's no way that it goes 5 in the way it went.
It's 7. Yeah, it's for sure.
It goes 7. 6 or 7. Yeah. CJ wins this one game. He doesn't play the way Julius plays.
Right. But I just think that Blazers fans will look at that as kind of a downgrade. It's like, okay, we're trading CJ for a consistent all-star, at least borderline all-star
but someone who can like bang in the interior. Julius is a good defender. Julius can play D.
Right. I like the Julius matchup, especially if you're telling me I'm keeping Covington too. I like Julius and Covington a lot, although it's kind of you're starting to get a little redundant because then you're sitting in a situation where you don't really have. Well, are you getting Nurk? You said you're keeping Nurk
in that situation, yeah. Or you can get rid of him, but like he doesn't clash with Nurk because Julius.
No, he doesn't. But he clashes with Covington, kind of though.
Kinda. Yeah, because Julius is not necessarily a wing, but Covington can just chill on the 3-point line.
True. But he's not really a 3, and Covington isn't really a 3, so it just kind of gets a little weird.
I think, and I just think Julius might need the ball in his hands a little too much for Dame.
True.
So maybe that's what it is.
To me, Dame
it'd be interesting.
Yeah,
it gives the Blazers another look though out of offense though, because like I said, I think their offense became too predictable. Like at times you can put the ball in Julius's hands and run a point forward type thing.
True.
So I think it makes them more diverse offensively, and I think that defensively it makes them better too on the interior, which they got beat up in by big men all season. So I think they have different options.
Ideally, it's Paul George or Cat.
Yeah, I agree. Paul George and Cat would be an absolute home run for Blazers.
Oh yeah, that'd be a home run. I just don't know if they can swing both, but if they could, man, that'd be crazy.
That's a solid team.
Yeah, that's a really good team. So yeah, we'd have to definitely see. I mean, it's too early. We're still in the playoffs. We'll have plenty of time to play the summer games with who's going where and musical chairs and all that good stuff.
And then it depends on the coaches too, because if you hire like
who would you hire as a coach?
That I don't know. To me, I think you need to figure out what type of team you want to run. If you want to go more defensively, like you got to get a more defensive minded coach. If you want to just run and gun all day, get Mike D'Antoni. It just depends on what you want to do.
Man, give me a name. Gotta give me a name. Gun to your head.
Jeff
Water gun to your head. Sorry, water gun to your head. we have gun control on this show. Jeff Van Gundy.
No, there's a guy in there, Justin Vanderpool, I think his name is.
Yeah.
They seem to like. I don't know anything about him though.
I don't know anything about him either. Yeah. Juwan Howard.
Oh, I like that. Does he want to be in the pros?
I don't know if he's ready to leave Michigan right now.
I feel like he's like the next Coach K of college basketball. If he's
I feel like he's the next kind of like Jim Harbaugh type, where I think he's going to do well in college and then he's going to go to the NBA. Somebody's going to throw him a bag. He's going to do really well if you let him just kind of do his thing. I don't know. I would call Juwan Howard and be like, "Yo, how much would it cost?"
There really isn't like a coaching pool out there where it's like, oh.
It's not like in football or even in baseball where every year you kind of have a pool. In the NBA, it's kind of like every year is kind of,
it's kind of crazy.
These guys just promote.
If I'm being completely honest with you, Terry Stotts is probably the most desirable name right now. The guy they let go.
Yeah, I can see Terry Stotts getting another job somewhere, especially for a young team. Yeah.
Probably goes to Orlando. Steve
Orlando just got fired. Orlando just keeps to be like the revolving door of just coaches. Jesus Christ, Orlando. I can't see there isn't like that home run candidate. You know what? I think Becky Hammon should get a job this year.
I would love for Becky Hammon to get a job. I think the Spurs are grooming her though.
To be the eventual.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think eventually she takes over Pop's position. I'll be shocked. I think they're grooming her for that.
What about what's his face that's been there for a while too? Messina? What's his name?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's I have no evidence to support what I'm saying. It's just a feeling.
I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more feelers too. Messina?
I'm surprised. Like, if you come from the Popovich tree, you should be on demand. Yeah. Like almost like similar to the Belichick tree, right?
Right. What about some of these college coaches too, like Musselman and I'm surprised Musselman hasn't gotten more calls about going. Young guy, has NBA roots. I could see somebody chasing after Musselman, maybe. Like you said, there isn't really that one guy. The NBA seems to be like the league of retreads. Even Lloyd Pierce is a guy that's been considered for.
Now Lloyd, the way
it's not fair. He didn't really have a lot to work with when he was there.
He didn't have the whole team, but
right.
But for as much as like Nate McMillan succeeded, like that does not look good on you.
No, you're right. It does not at all. So, and hell, even Mike D'Antoni, like the guy that just has more lives than a cat. Like, hey, listen, I mean, he's arguably coaching the best team in basketball right now.
He is coaching them. Let's be honest.
Right. So I said arguably. With all due respect to the substitute teacher, Steve Nash.
I'm a huge D'Antoni fan, but
what about Atkinson?
Boom. There you go. Let's go on.
For the Blazers, Atkinson?
Yeah, he'd be good.
I like that move too.
That was good. I forgot about him. He's been out of the public eye for like a year. So
I know, right? I still don't understand why.
Sam Cassell would be interesting.
Sam Cassell.
He's paid his dues, man. He's been
paid, like, I think he deserves a shot. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Chauncey. Surprised Chauncey hasn't gotten more looks too.
Yeah, well, Chauncey's it's a lot of with the thing with Jason Kidd and the domestic violence. Like Chauncey's.
Oh yeah. So. That's it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, we got time to do all that, man. Let's close. I'd be remiss to do a show and not talk about the other big news item of the week. Coach K, man, hanging it up after 40 plus years.
How do you feel
at the helm? I mean, it's we knew this day was coming. It's like, you know what I looked at it? It's like your grandparents. It's like, you know, that day is coming when they're not going to be there anymore. And it's like, you know, you just prepare yourself like, you know, one day it's coming, you know, you're not going to be there forever. You know, like you knew it was coming, right? Like Coach K's been there for so long. He's in his 70s. It's crazy because in a lot of ways he just feels ageless.
He's in his 70s?
Yeah, he's 75.
What?
Yeah.
I thought he was like 57.
Oh, you're tripping. Nah, he's 70.
I am tripping. He looks young.
He's been there. Yeah, he looks good for his age. And he said he went out of his way to say that, like, this isn't health related. This isn't COVID related. This isn't, you know, college basketball changing. So now I can't coach anymore.
No, I'm just.
This is just him. He's 75, man. And over the last couple of years, he's missed some time. You know, Coach K always had an issue with his back and stuff like that. You know, he's 75 years old, man. You know, at 75, you can't be doing the same shit every day. And you know how it is to be a coach and be a college coach at that. Like, being an NBA coach is easy. A college coach, it's a year-round thing. You're talking to boosters, you're recruiting.
You're like a president.
You know, exactly. You are the most powerful. Like, Coach K is probably the most powerful man in North Carolina. Or top 3.
You're probably right.
Seriously, it's the governor, state senator, Coach K, and whoever coaches UNC. Probably the most powerful people in the state. Like,
that's funny.
You know, it's like, and that's how it is when you're a college coach. Like Nick Saban is probably the most important, powerful man in Alabama, without a doubt. Like, he could run for Senate right now and win in a landslide.
1,000%. And same with Coach K.
And that's what it is in that area, in that region. And when you're a college coach, like, you're revered. You don't have that in the NBA. So, you know, he's 75 years old. He wants to do something different. You know, you can't knock the guy. Look, it was coming. It was time. It was coming. I don't think any Duke fan is surprised or shocked. We knew that day would come eventually. We just didn't know when. I thought Coach K had at least another 2-3 years, maybe. But, hey, it's the guy wants to do something else.
Passion for it too. I mean, it's just there's something different with the Duke teams lately, and I think a lot of it's the one and dones, and I don't think he got a problem with it necessarily, but it's not the same feel, man. Like when you're coaching the same kids, like the John Shires and the Shane Battiers and the Jason Williams for like 4 years, and you watch them grow and you see them become like, you turn them into men and you see them go to the NBA. Like that had to be so satisfying for him now. And now that Duke has just pretty much become like a one and done. Not all of them, but for the most, they've become.
No, they are. They've done it.
I think it takes away the passion. Like it's not that he can't adjust. He probably can, but it's like
because you're double recruiting. Because not only are you recruiting Josh Rodriguez one and done, but you're recruiting the guy after him.
Right.
To kind of fill the void that eventually he's going to leave. It's a lot, man. And again, 75 years old, it's a lot. And obviously John Shire is doing more of the recruiting these days now than Coach K. Right. Coach K is kind of the overseer, the liaison. He kind of closes deals and stuff. But John Shire's out there doing the legwork. And speaking of John Shire, he's the coach in waiting. I think it's a hell of a hire. I really like John a lot. The only
I like him as a player too.
I liked him as a player. I liked him, and I like him as a coach. He's a great recruiter. He's the guy that's really been at the forefront of the recruiting in the last couple of years. So I have no doubt that he can recruit. Obviously, it's a lot different recruiting for Duke when you have Coach K sitting there, as opposed to, hey, it's John Shire and I'm recruiting for John Shire.
Right.
So it's going to be different. Look, I like the hire a lot. I think he's a really good coach. He's a smart coach. Only question mark is this is his first job, and it's a big job. He hasn't coached somewhere. He hasn't gotten his feet wet somewhere. I almost wish that he could have gotten his feet maybe somewhere else before he kind of came to the Duke. But that's the one knock I guess you can have on K is that a lot of his assistants haven't done well outside of the Duke bubble. The only one that's had a modicum, Quinn Snyder doesn't count. He's coaching the NBA. But the only one that really had Jeff Capel's had some success, and Tommy Amaker. Those are the only ones. Everybody else, Danny Hurley's been okay. Bobby Hurley's been okay at Arizona State.
I just don't believe in like the whole coaching tree, man. Like you are your own person. Like a part of being a coach is like.
But that goes into the perception, though.
I know.
Well, we can't hire, Jeff Capel because he's been a failure everywhere else. Like, that goes into perception, whether it's fair or unfair. That goes into it.
Matt Patricia, like with the Lions, like it's like, oh, just because you coach for Belichick don't mean shit. Like, you're not
totally different. Yeah, you're not him. But I think teams get trapped in that. It's like, oh, well, he's Belichick, so he should be that guy.
Right.
And sometimes it isn't. It doesn't always work that way. So, yeah. It's bittersweet. It's like he's been there my whole life. Like I've been a Duke fan my whole life, and it's been Coach K. He's been the one constant. And he's not going to be there anymore. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be crazy.
It is weird.
He's the best college basketball coach of all time.
Yeah.
When you take into effect the fact that you're coaching he's coached he's coached in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, now to 2020s. And he's dealt with different eras of college basketball, and he's had success in every era. He's the best coach of all time. He's had a success in the one and done era.
He was like a powerhouse before he got there either. Like,
no, he made that program.
Yeah.
He made that program. So yeah, it's going to be a huge hole to fill when he's gone. I don't want to make it sound like it's going to be a seamless transition, and replacing a guy of that stature is never easy. It's never easy. Ask any great legendary coach that's retired.
I do like their plan though. Yeah. Having Shire, someone who went to Duke, who's an understudy, like it seems like a very seamless process. It doesn't seem like it's going to be like too difficult.
Right. And if Shire doesn't work out, which I don't think it will not work out, but if it doesn't work out, I think they'll give him good 2-3 years. I think they'll give him about 3 years.
3-4.
And if it doesn't work out, Quinn Snyder's always out there. Who knows what Quinn Snyder does in 3-4 years? Maybe Utah gets stale. Who knows? That specter of Quinn Snyder being out there is always there. Brad Stevens is a guy that Duke fans have had. Brad Stevens would be a home run at Duke.
Oh my God!
God, yeah. Yeah. So you could always replace it. Duke is Duke. Duke is a marquee. Duke is a brand now. So I don't have a problem with it. Duke's not going to fall off the face of the earth now that Coach K left. It'll be an adjustment. It'll take some time, but Duke's not going to fall off the map. When Duke comes knocking at your door, kids are listening. It's Duke.
Right.
They're not going anywhere. So.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I feel about it, man. I'm not sad. I mean, I am sad, but it's not like it's heartbreak or devastation. You knew this day was coming. So now it's just about celebrating Coach K's legacy, what he did for the program, what he did for college basketball, and going out this year on top. Like, we have one of the best recruiting class in the country. We have Paolo Banchero coming in, who's projected to be the number 1 pick, or one of the top 2 or 3 picks, along with Chet and Imani Bates or whatever. So, it's go time. Got to go out there, win a national championship, go out on top, and see what happens, man.
You win for Coach K.
That's the fairy tale ending that I think all of us are waiting for. So, yeah, that's where I stand on it, man. It's a celebration of Coach K, man, and he's earned the right. He's earned it. And Duke haters are always going to be like, "Oh, it's typical Coach K. He's going to have a farewell." No, he's doing it the right way. No, but he's doing it the right way. He's doing it
it's like
a year in advance.
Notice. Yeah,
he's doing it a year in advance because of recruiting.
Right.
Now, recruits for the class of 2022, 2023 and beyond know, okay, Coach K is not going to be here, is John Shire. And Coach K is not going anywhere either. It's not like Coach K is going to go to a golf course and like say, fuck Duke. Like, no, he's basically going to be like a CEO of Duke now. Like, he says it, like, we're still going to be involved in the program. Coach K is still going to go out and close a big deal if he has to. Like, that's a hell of an ace in the hole to have if you're John Shire. It's like, yo, I got Coach K. Yo, Coach, I'm trying to close this deal with, Josh Rodriguez, top nation prospect in the nation, LBJ Jr. or Bronny. Like, yo, Coach K, come to the crib. Like, he's still going to be able to do that. So, yeah, it was a time that was going to come eventually. But, I think as a Duke fan, you never kind of think it's going to happen until it happens, and it's happened. So, yeah, we're going to see what comes to this season, man.
It's been a hell of a ride.
Hell of a ride, man. Hell of a ride. But yeah, the goal number 1 right now, win a national championship next year for Coach K. That's the goal. So we're not even thinking about the future. Right now, it's winning a national championship with that group of great players that we have coming in. And
the crazies are back in Cameron Indoor. That'd be fun.
Please. Yeah, I think that college sports was really affected by the lack of fans last year.
College sports sucked.
Yeah.
Without the fans.
Yeah.
So. I mean, that's what makes college to me so great, is when it's conference tournament time and student sections going nuts. And then the March Madness, same thing. That's what college basketball is to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, if you even have, obviously we won't have a full packed crowd at Cameron, but if you have 60% of it, it's still Cameron. So yeah, I'm excited for it, man. I'm looking forward to it. We have a goal. We have a goal to attain. Every year you have a goal to win a national championship at Duke, but this year is even extra special. It's going to be It's going to be even more pressure to try to win a national championship for Coach K. Hell, at the very least, just get to a Final Four and then just let the chips fall where they may. But yeah, it's going to be exciting, man. It's going to be exciting. It's sad and exciting at the same time. So,
man, Duke versus UNC in the final. That's like storybook. That's storybook.
And we'll close on this, but it's an end of an era too, man. I mean, you got Roy Williams retiring.
Roy's gone too. Yeah,
Roy Williams is gone. Coach K's retiring. Who knows? Maybe in a few years, Izzo's out of there.
Izzo has a few years. Izzo has like 5 years max.
Yeah, Izzo's got like 5 years max, and and Calipari's not a spring chicken. He's younger out of all of them, but he's in his 60s now. Boeheim's probably next. Once
Buddy's gone.
Yeah, Boeheim's maybe got another year or two left, and then that's it. It's an end of an era, man. Yep. I mean, this is an era. I mean, this is an end of like a 40, 50-year era. Gone. That's it. John Thompson's no longer with us. Lou Carnesecca is still holding on at 90 plus years old, but he's obviously been out of the game. Rowley passed away a couple years ago. I mean, that era, man, of when college basketball was college basketball, slowly dying away, and now we're getting a new era, which is going to be totally different. A new wave of coaches.
Juwan Howard could be the next. That's what I'm saying. Like, everyone's talking about Juwan Howard in the NBA. Well, I'm like, Juwan Howard, like, he's set up to be like the next Coach K, the next Tom Izzo.
I think Juwan Howard. I think Porter Moser, the guy from Loyola Chicago. I think Nate Oates. I think Eric Musselman. I think there's some guys out there that have that Brad Stevens, if he ever decides to go back to college, it's
Jay Wright's going to be up watching like 10, 15.
Jay Wright is
going to be that dude because he's won a few national championships and he just has to like get a little gray. That's all.
Yeah. Jay Wright. If he decides not to leave to the NBA, which is still a possibility for him, but why would you ever leave? You're a god at Villanova, man. Why would you want to go deal with fucking $1 million athletes and some idiot on Twitter telling you that, you didn't make
this wave. Yeah. Once this wave is gone, I mean, who are you going to look at as like the most successful coach?
Yeah.
It's Calipari and Jay Wright.
Yeah. And I think the college basketball is changing in the sense that I think with the advent of the G League becoming more of a player and overseas becoming more of a player, I think you're going to start seeing maybe 50 by the end of this decade. I think you're going to start seeing one and dones primarily going into the G League. You'll have a couple that'll be sprinkled around college basketball. I think you'll have one and dones primarily going to the G League and overseas. And I think you're going to start going back to everybody else kind of going back to college. Yeah. And having 2-3 year guys, which I think would be an upgrade to college basketball.
Awesome for sure. I agree.
If you can have every team that has a Luka Garza, a guy that stays for 3-4 years,
right? That's when college basketball was dope to me. Like Shane Battier for 4 years was on freaking Duke. That was dope.
Yeah.
Tyler Hansbrough,
I think they should make a rule, man. I think they should basically do away with one and done. You can go to high school. You can go to the NBA right out of high school, but if you go to college, you have to do 2 years. Do it the baseball route. Baseball does it.
Football does that too.
Yeah. So. The world is changing, man. Everything is changing, and this is just one of them. But it's an end of an era, man. So salute to Coach K for 40 plus years at Duke, 45 plus years at coaching, and yeah, man, he's a legend. It goes without saying, he's a legend. So yeah, and all the haters, stop talking shit. He deserves the send off that he's gonna get. So yeah, man, leave Coach K alone. He's deserved it. So hell of a career, hell of a run. All right, man. That's it. I think we got to everything. That is it. Anything else you want to share before we get out of here, man?
Nah, man. Just glad to be back.
Yeah.
How's Boston? Be back. You were Boston, man.
Boston. Yeah, we went. Yeah, Boston was cool, man. The weather was trash. I mean, you obviously in the East Coast.
Yeah, it was awful weekend.
The weather last weekend was so awful, man. God, it was awful. I got there Friday morning and like, honestly, that was one of the best weather days in Boston was that day. And I got there and I was so jet lagged because I didn't sleep on the plane. I took a red eye, so I didn't sleep that whole night. And so I got into Boston and I was just exhausted by the time I got into my Airbnb, picked up Justin. Shout out to Justin, by the way, too. So by the time I got to the crib, I was just like, I just passed out. And we went out that night and already started raining. And it literally started raining that night and it didn't stop. So basically all weekend was a washout. And we didn't even get to go to Fenway. So I was just sitting there like Saturday morning. I was like, fuck, man, I'm probably not going to be able to do this Red Sox game. So I'm like, what's the next best thing? Celtics game. So we just on the fly decided we were going to go to TD Garden, go to a Celtics game. We picked a terrible Celtics game to go to because the Celtics got killed. But it is. The experience is always good. So got to go to a playoff game, my first playoff game. And my first game at Boston Garden, or at least new Boston Garden anyway. But that was cool, man. Great arena. I really like that arena a lot. It's cool atmosphere. Fans, obviously Celtics fans are Celtics fans, so it's cool. I know I went and I survived. I didn't get lynched. There was no KKK signs anywhere or anything like that. It was good. I survived. I know that, basically racism was created in Boston. Apparently. So I've heard.
It's created in Boston.
It's created in Boston, I guess. According to Kyrie. That's why I didn't play well game 3, because it was all the racism.
All the racism
it was like a thick fog that was just sitting in the arena with all the racism.
Oh man, I love Kyrie, man, but he just tries to be too woke for me sometimes.
Kyrie, it feels like Kyrie wants to always be the smartest person. It's like Kyrie is that guy that's the smartest person he knows.
Right.
So he thinks that he's smarter than what he really is. And then when he goes to other people, he's like, oh, I'm the smartest person in the room. Yeah. No, you're not.
You're not at all.
Like one of them or not smart at all. That's what Kyrie's issue is. But yeah, man. And I'm just making a joke. But obviously we know Boston has its issues, but people overplayed the whole Boston thing is right. No, like the NBA has 30 cities. They all have racism because America is racist.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
New York City and Los Angeles, like the two bluest parts in this whole country, and
there's racism there.
Yeah, like it's everywhere.
You think Miami because it's on a beach, it's not racist? Like the fuck out of here. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. They can have Los Heat jerseys on, and we hate niggas outside on the building. Like, it happens. Go back to Mexico as they're wearing their Los Heat jerseys. Like, stop.
And waving a Cuban flag. Yeah.
Right? Can't make this shit up, man. Nah, but Boston was cool, man. The Monday, my last day there for Memorial Day, we went up to Hartford. I got to see my cousin that I haven't seen in like 20 years. That was really dope. And we just spent the day in Hartford. Hartford's a nice little town. First time being there. Hartford's a nice little city. Like it a lot. It was cool, man. Honestly, it was a chill weekend, man. Mental health break. Just chill, relaxing weekend, man. So glad to be back, though. Glad to be back. So, all right, man. We're going to get up out of here. As always, thank you guys for listening and supporting the show. Without you guys, obviously, there is no podcast. So thank you for supporting. As always, if you want to listen and support to the show, you can find us on every podcast platform. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter and the show on Twitter. You can follow the show on Twitter at AGS Pod, on Instagram, AGS Podcast, Facebook, Any Given Sunday. You can follow me on Twitter at DManuelBrown, Instagram, DManuelBrown, and Facebook, Manuel Brown, and of course, Snapchat, MannyBro15. Josh, you want to tell everybody where to find you, where they can find the Dime, and everything else you got going on?
You can follow the Dime at the Dime NBA on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to listen to the podcast, it's an NBA podcast that drops weekly. Just search the Dime with Josh Rodriguez on your podcast app. Just got signed with Ball is Life. They're going to be releasing their podcast network pretty soon. I know they just released the podcast Let's Get Technical with Rasheed Wallace and Bonzi Wells, which is basically the headliner for the network. So I guess once they get all their ducks in a row, and they'll start promoting my stuff. But until then, you can just type in the Dime with Josh Rodriguez and you'll find it. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm at Josh_Rodriguez_.
Yes, sir. Go also make sure you go check out some stuff I got coming out soon on MLBBro.com. Also, go check out the Baseball Pod. I love baseball. Go make sure you go check out Dead End Sports. I'm on there. Some of the times when my schedule permits, I'm on there throughout the week. But yeah, man, make sure you go check out all the shows on Dead End Podcast Network as well. So yeah, man, we're going to get up out of here. We're done talking. The show will be up here in the morning. Like I said, as always, thank you guys for listening, for supporting, and for making this show possible. For Josh Rodriguez, I am Manny Brown. We are out of here. Peace.
Blue Sky deals have landed with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. Take off to Barcelona, Dubai, Panama, and many more destinations. Book with confidence with our flexible options at klm.ie by 16th September. Fly KLM via Amsterdam from Dublin or Cork Airport. T's and C's apply. Blue Sky deals have landed with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. Take off to Barcelona, Dubai, Panama, and many more destinations. Book with confidence with our flexible options at klm.ie by 16th September. Fly KLM via Amsterdam from Dublin or Cork Airport. T's and C's apply.